Hello, 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 hello. How is everyone? I wanted to go live and talk about this conversation that I had a couple of weeks ago on Facebook. I saw the conversation happening and I could have just let it go. But you know how sometimes you're like, oh, I got time today. And so I had time. And so I want to talk about internalized transmisogyny, transmisia, transphobia, those things. Hey, Gigi. Hey, Brittany. Hey, Black. Hey, Brandon. So it's late night, and I know it's not my normal time to go live, but I just was thinking about it, and I don't want to lose the conversation. Um, and so, yeah, and I'm bored. So, hey. Okay. Did you hear from Lady Phil? She hit me up earlier this week. I did not. I had sent her a message. It had to be like a year ago. Let me see how long ago that was. I have sent her a message a long while ago, trying to set up a conversation with her. And I don't really know what happened. We exchanged um, let me see what happened in the messages. Um, yeah, we hit each other on WhatsApp, and it kind of fizzled out. I'll I'll reach back out. All right. How is everybody doing? Is everybody having a good start of their week? I just got back from Arizona, had a good time, but I have a lot of work to do this week. But I'm glad to be making some money to pay bills. I'm gonna stop saying that I'm glad to be working because I'm not. I do not. I want to live a life of leisure. Leisure and luxury. I do not want to claim and be grateful for work. I am grateful to have a roof over my head and money to pay for those things, but I am not grateful to be working for that money. I want life to be easy and simple, full of luxury and leisure. So I want to claim that. Anyway, um, what is your have y'all heard that audio going around? Um, what is your dream job? Darling, I don't have a dream job. I don't dream of labor. I don't dream of labor. All right. So let me go to what I wanted to talk about. Okay. Doo-doo-doo. All right. All right. So let's set some, not ground rules, but some parameters. So everybody in the chat, y'all know that I'm sure if you're my regular people, but if you are new here, y'all know that there are other type of trans people. Like, I know that the people that we see out here doing the work, out here getting the limelight are trans women, but y'all know that there are the opposites of us, right? Like the opposite of trans women. There are trans men, like people who go from being assigned female at birth to being trans men, okay? To being men and living their life. They go from this to this in the same way that we go from this to this. Do you see what I'm saying? I know this seems slow, but a lot of time, I know this seems like duh, Diamond, to people who know they exist, but there are people out here that when they are talking about trans people or trans issues, they are only thinking about trans women. And so that's why this video is called Transmisogyny, because there is a particular misogyny that affects trans women that I don't think affects trans men in the same way. Okay. And so, and I'm this conversation is sparked. Um, this conversation is sparked because of this perfect example. Um, oh, I thought you were gonna hit her up a couple of months ago. I hit her up in January about being on the podcast. Yeah, no, no, no. I didn't re-hit her up. I just hit her up a couple of I know was it a year ago? I have to I don't know when that conversation happened, child. Yeah, this is March 6th, 2020. Not 2020, 2022. So this is almost 2 years ago. So yeah, March 6th is coming up in a couple of weeks. So it was almost 2 years ago. So anyway, but yeah, I'll hit her back up. See if she wants to be on the show. Um, so let's talk about this. So let me give y'all the setup and context of why this conversation is important. I think this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, and I hope this shines some light on it a little bit for y'all to think about it when it happens. All right, so this is a trans man, okay, who posts a status on um on Facebook. Okay. So his status is a trans woman said trans men that don't date trans women are transphobic. LOL in capital letters. What? Laughing my ass off. So just taking that status, what we can gather is that some trans woman, either he's reading her status or she's talking to him, or she conveys that trans men who don't date trans women are transphobic. So anybody who don't know our community, there is a group of our community, just like anybody else, just like any other community, that has ideas and thoughts and opinions that some people in the community may agree with, and then some people in the community disagree with. So this is one of those things. So Diamond Stylz, is not one of those people who think that somebody not being into me because of my transness, I don't think that they are transphobic. There's some nuance there. And if I go into a little bit more detail, I can say, I don't think it's necessarily wrong. Like, if I'm not into you, I'm not into you. For whatever reason that can be. I have no problem with people being discriminating in their bedrooms. Now, I don't want you to be discriminating when you hire people at a job, when you are giving people services, and when you have access to the power to give people resources. I don't want you to be discriminating at all. That's when I want to call you out on your transphobia. But when it comes to your bedroom, I think people should have, we think about consent and freedom. when it comes to their sexuality, I feel like people have the right to be discriminating in their bedroom because this is about their pleasure, their body, their needs, their own sexuality. And so I don't think that somebody is transphobic just because they're not into you as a trans person. I don't think that. So some people, the other opinion is because I'm a woman, and this is not my opinion, I'm just trying to explain to you the other side of the opinion, okay? Some trans people think because I am a woman, as a trans woman, as Diamond Styles, if you are choosing to not fuck with me, deal with me on a romantic level, because I am particularly a trans woman, it is because you don't respect my womanhood. If you are a straight man and you like women, and then you find out that I am not a cisgender woman, it is because transphobia has informed you that I'm not a real woman, and that is transphobic. Does that make sense to me? As Diamond's House, that makes sense to me. I just don't find it to be a problem. So I guess my position is that it might be transphobic, but I don't find that to be a problem for me. Okay, so let me reword that. So it might be rooted in transphobia, but because this is their romantic lives, I feel like they can be discriminating in that. And I don't find that to be a problem. Does it make sense? Y'all follow me so far? Y'all still here? I just don't think that that is an issue. I feel like if I'm not into you, I'm not into you. If I'm not into, yeah, it might be rooted in some transphobia, but I don't, it don't matter because I don't want nobody in my bedroom that I don't want just because it's politically correct to have it, to have that. I don't want it to be, I don't want to be forced into something that I don't like. Hey, I don't want to be forced into, I don't want that. And when it comes to romance, okay? Romance. I'm specifically talking about romance. I stand firmly when it comes to when you have the power to give people resources and opportunity and jobs. I think that's totally different. Your opinion about me should throw that shit away when it comes to hiring me for a job and giving me opportunity and giving me access to healthcare and giving me access to food and shelter. Da 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 da. I think all that bullshit that you feel about trans people needs to go out the way. If you're in a powerful position that can decide if I get those things. So if you discriminate against me because in for those things, then I have a problem with you. I should go after your head. But when it comes to your romantic life, I don't have a problem with that. I hope that's clear. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying what my opinion is on it. So there might be some other trans people who can explain it, their position just as well or whatever. But that's on them. So this trans man in this conversation is saying that a trans woman said that a trans man that don't date trans women are transphobic. LOL. And he says, what? So somebody in the comments, so I don't think necessarily this person sharing this status that is necessarily problematic. But what I knew is that in the comments, I was gonna find something that was problematic um and full of transmisogyny. My take is similar. It might be because of transphobia, but I'm not a trans woman. I'm non-binary, but it wouldn't want to date someone who doesn't want to date me either. Yeah, I'm like, if you say you're not into me, child, okay, cool. I ain't about to say you're transphobic for not being into me. I'm not gonna do that. That feels stupid. First of all, I'm too prideful, but but it just feels stupid to me. You're losing weight, Auntie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I'm down to 270. Um, that is my current status as far as my weight. My waist is getting small, stomach is getting flat, cakes is getting pooched out. Even these pants used to be tight. They all loose. These pants used to be tight as hell. So yes, I'm down to 270. My goal weight is it used to be 230, but I don't think I want to get that small. I want to get to 250. I think 240, 250, nah, 250. Cause I like, I like to be cheesecake, baby. Caked up and jiggly. But I am getting a little, a little small, cute. Anyway, so let's go to the next part. But thank you for noticing, babe. Um, so I scroll down into the comments, and this is what I see. This is a cisgender woman commenting on his status. So she says, that's her male entitlement jumping out. Okay. So this trans man posts a status about a trans woman saying that trans men are transphobic if they don't date trans women. A cis woman jumps in to the comments and say, that's her male entitlement jumping out. Do y'all think that's problematic? If so, why? Because I think it's problematic, and I respond to it, and I want to see what do y'all think is problematic, or do y'all agree, or is there somebody who agrees? Guess what, CL? Hey, you think it's problematic? Okay, why? That's her male entitlement jumping out, and I see 18 people has either laughed, thumbs up, or hearted the comment. Oh, and somebody else after Chrissy says that, another woman, cisgender woman, jumps in the conversation. She's laughing. She says, "Ooh, you beat me to it." So she agrees with her and wanted to say it as well. And then the trans man, after those two, the trans man comes behind her and says, LOL, yo, you don't know how I literally fell out. You probably know her too. She be in your city. But yeah, shit, I want to, nope, never mind. But yeah, they're nuts. So we ain't gonna go in the I ain't gonna go there. Because it's a whole other topic. The comment is her transphobia coming out, in my opinion. It's problematic because the topic of the conversation has nothing to do with cis women, so she should have just sat on the sidelines. That's a good observation. But yes, the trans man jumped back in and said they're nuts, and I almost fell out. So Chrissy comes back. Chrissy is the cis woman who said this thing. She says, they say stuff like that and sound so predatory. Okay. Another trans man. Now, both of these trans men are on my friends list. So I'm watching this go down. Another trans man hops into the conversation and says, Chrissy. Chrissy is the cis woman who jumped in the conversation and said it. No matter the platform, you are a straight shooter. So you're agreeing with her and affirming her. Well, to me, I don't want to say you're agreeing, but you say she's a straight shooter. Anytime you say somebody, to me, anytime you say somebody's a straight shooter, you're saying they always don't sugarcoat stuff. To me, it feels like an affirmation because you're like, you keep it real. You a straight shooter. You shoot from the hip. To me, when you say that, it's kind of affirming. It says, it feels like a supportive thing, even though you're not technically agreeing, saying I agree with her, but you're saying she's a straight shooter. So that means that she keeps it real. She's always up front. She don't sugarcoat nothing. Am I right or wrong? I don't want to make no assumptions no illogical assumptions. Is that how y'all taking it? Cis folks love hopping in our business. Maybe I'm tripping. If y'all took it another way, A trans man jumped in the conversation and said, "Oh, Chrissy, here you go," no matter the platform. So that means to me, you follow her on other platforms. You have seen her be a straight shooter in regards to topics. So cool. You've seen her on other platforms, and she keep it gutter. She keep it real. She keep it blunt. She don't sugarcoat nothing. That's what it feels like to me. Am I tripping or nah? So that's a trans man. So now we have the trans man status. We have two trans men in the comments affirming what she's saying. So the trans man think that cooning behind cis women is gonna save them or get them laid. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. All right. So now this is my first comment in response to her. So this is what I say. Her name is Chrissy. So I say, it's a whole sector of trans people on both sides of the gender spectrum that think this. Trans men included, and they are not male. They are men, but they are not male. So is it male entitlement when they think it too? When they say stuff like this as well? To me, it sounds like your turf transmisogyny is jumping out. Because a lot of us don't have feelings of being entitled to y'all little private parts sitting waiting to jump out of us. Because I know me, I ain't got no interest in y'all little private parts. Now, I'm trying to keep it cute. Because I wanted to go further because I was a little pissed. So I was trying to keep it cute. And I was like, we ain't got no desire for y'all little entitlement for y'all little private parts to jump out. Some of us don't want y'all at all. And when we tell trans men that, some of y'all call us transphobic because we not into y'all like y'all into us. So, Fish, do you think that it's male entitlement when they say it? Because they say the same shit. I've had trans men that I have said, no, that's not really my thing. Say, oh, that's the internalized transphobia coming up out of you. That's why. So, Chrissy, when they say it, is it male entitlement? Because when you're saying trans women say it, you're saying it's male entitlement coming out. As if there's some innate entitlement that comes out of somebody who is born male. Like we just sitting up waiting for the patriarchy to come out of us. I feel that to be toxic. Chrissy laughs, and then a trans woman jumps in and tags me and says, facts, because she agrees with me telling the truth. And then Chrissy says, instead of responding to what I said to her, she says, y'all are saying a bunch of nothing. You can't force anyone to like you. A man who wants a biological woman, biological in caps, by the way. They love to pull out biological. Even though, if you really want to get technical, we all biological. Biological just means that you're a living organism. So I'm a biological person too. You're a biological person. We all biological. So just saying a biological woman doesn't mean anything. So bitch, you saying a bunch of nothing. So a man who wants a biological woman and everything that comes with a biological woman isn't going to want a transsexual. Go find somebody who wants you and prefers you. Next. So another trans woman jumps in the conversation because I went about my business and I was just going to come back later. But another trans woman came in and said, lovely, you just agree with the fact people have the right to choose what they like regardless of why. If you don't like the metaphor, I understand, but have a beautiful day, love. P.S. I don't believe in forcing people to like me. I don't lack communication or desire for any identity or sexuality. So I come back by this time and I say, Chrissy, nobody actually is disagreeing with what you said in that statement. Because I don't disagree with her in the statement of people have the right to choose and like what they want. But you're ignoring what we are talking about because you are a transphobe. And it is very clear you're making it about innate male entitlement. And as I said, some trans men say the same ish when people don't want them. When we want biological peen and not a strap on, they say we are transphobic. It is not male entitlement. It's simple entitlement that has nothing to do with being male. We agree that the entitlement is wrong. But the problem is you're making it seem like it's just a male thing. That's the problem. And it's not. Because there is a lot of trans people, male or female, across all identity spectrum that agree, that think that it is transphobic for you not to like them. I've heard it from both sides, and I have thought it was problematic from both sides. And so Chrissy says, okay, my bad. I understand now. Disregard what I said. LOL. And so I say, it's actually understandable because I expect this from y'all. Like when cis men don't know when they're exhibiting misogynoir or colorist views in their humor towards you. It's kind of a norm. What I don't expect is trans men on this post not to clock it and call it out. That's weird. Because the cis girl, she said the problematic stuff, but I expect it from them. They're cis people. It's like white people coming in with some ignorant white racist stuff. You expect it from them, but I don't expect coon ass black people to come in and agree with the racists. That's weird to me. So I didn't expect the trans men that are on my list to come in and be agreeing with her and not clocking what is being said. Y'all not clocking the transphobia in the statement. Y'all agreeing with it because y'all secretly be turfs up under their testosterone. And how that shows up is trans misogyny. Y'all put shit on trans women that shouldn't be on us. You using language like entitlement and predatory, making it seem like we navigating the world like cis men trying to force ourselves on your body. As a whole, is there some trans women that's weird like that? Sure. I'm not saying they don't exist, but it's trans men that's weird like that too. So that just ain't a cis, a male thing. Y'all making it seem like everybody, every trans woman be wanting y'all, and that's just not true. I know trans women that don't even date y'all. So how they got some innate male entitlement? I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was transphobic a few years ago, and I lost a friend behind it. Were they really a friend? I wonder what Chrissy would say about this if she found out about young transitioners who don't really live as male, or intersex trans women who didn't experience manhood at any point in their lives. And I don't want to confuse. Now, this is where we might differ. What's your name? I don't know how to pronounce that. Kuroyama? Koriyama? Koroyama? Can you spell your name out phonetically so I can see how to pronounce it? Now, this is where, where people call me a turf based on my beliefs. So this is where we might disagree. So, okay, let me try to explain it. So let's talk about race. People hate when I talk about race. Gotcha. All right. Kuroyama. Or just Sin. Okay, that's easy. But I like to pronounce people's name. But Sin is easy. All right. So let's talk about race. Because of the history of America, race is I'm sarcastic. I'm not sarcastically, but I use this very lightly. Race is easy to understand. Some people have a hard time. But racism is easy to understand, generally, because it's been talked about so much. So the basic concepts of racism people can kind of grasp. Basic. All right. So racism, the system of racism, when I say that it affects Black people even before they were born, what do y'all think I mean by that? So we can tell if I go to work, if I go to a job interview and they discriminate against me because I'm Black, or I go to buy a house or sell my house and they try to sell it to me, they try to raise the prices because they don't want Black people in the area, or they want to sell my house for less because I'm Black, a Black owner, or get it appraised for less. I know y'all done heard of it. This is studies that have been out in the world. People not getting jobs because their resume has a Blacker name than a Eurocentric name. People getting their house appraised for less money because they are a Black homeowner. When they, so much so that Black homeowners would literally have their white friend sell their house so they can get a more higher appraisal. Represent them. We can get those concepts of racism, how racism plays into that type of discrimination, right? But how does racism affect a baby before he or she is born? Somebody says epigenetics. Explain that, Gigi. How racism impacts the generational development of Black people in utero. The racism that our grandmother experienced impacted the development of our mother's eggs before she was born. What else? Anything else? Can anybody think of anything else? How can the system of racism affect a baby before it is born? Like when they're in the womb, before they're actually born. Are those things measurable? Is epigenetics measurable? There's science behind this. Pollution. That's a good one. Explain why you say pollution. Lack of access to prenatal care or poor quality natal care. Come on, y'all. I love smart people. Epigenetics is measurable. It is. There's tons of science behind that. Housing, capitalism. How so? Give me specific examples, y'all. Pollution. How, that's environmental racism. There's tons of research behind that. Housing discrimination, housing redlining, and where people can buy homes, if they have a home or not, if they have access to housing. Capitalism. Explain capitalism. How does that affect an unborn baby? Give me an example. Pregnancy discrimination for jobs. Okay. I see where that could be. Proper diet, nutrition, food deserts. Come on, Tori. Yes. Also, air pollution and unhealthy foods. Yes. Okay, all of these are great examples. I love my audience. Y'all are so smart. So we agree that there are things. Y'all know I'm setting y'all up, right? That's the kind of teacher I am. Not that y'all don't know this, but people who may be listening, y'all are helping me teach the class. So it's so easy for us to tell how easy in the examples that y'all gave, how racism could affect a child, the system of racism could affect a child before it was born. Okay? It's easy. Y'all gave me perfect examples, right? So let's flip that to another system that we love to talk about. Somebody brought up capitalism. That's a system as well. Let's flip it. Let's flip it to sexism. That's a system as well. How can sexism, do we need the definition of sexism? How could sexism, misogyny, patriarchy, those systems, all interconnected, the different names for all of them, sexism, misogyny, misogynoir, that's specific to Black women. How can those systems affect a female child before it was born? Because we know that these systems I'm talking about are based in gender and not race. Race is a social construct and gender is a social construct. How can a female child be affected by these systems of oppression before they are born? Y'all just gave me beautiful, easily beautiful answers for race. And I want y'all to think about that for gender. Give me examples. Denial of care or only access to lower quality care. Would that be, now you got to give me specific things that affects a female child where a male child would be privileged. Sex selection abortion. Come on, Ned. Come on. Very, very popular in India. There is a epidemic of female embryos being aborted because they are a female and because of the system of how females cost you money. Well, I know there's a parent. Come on, y'all. I know there's a parent who don't want a female child, such as disappointing when sex is learned or wanting to abort the baby. Just abort it. But there are probably better example. No, I think that's an amazing example. When you see these gender reveal, and and the father or the mother, I don't know, whoever, they want a male child because it is preferred to have a male child for whatever reason. Then they have this video of this horrible disappointment if it's a girl child. It's a thing in China as well. It is. It is a thing in China and in Turkey. Thank you. So all around the world, we have cultures that prefer male children, and they may not go to the extreme of abortion. Like in America, we may not go to the extreme like in those particular places, but there seemed to be a consensus around men, the leaders of the relationship, that they want a boy. They want a son. They want a prince. We have history of monarchs, women being murdered because they only had girls, even before the science that said that it actually is the man who decides. The sperm either has a XX, an X or a Y. He decides. But there was a whole culture in Europe that was killing women because they were saying that their vagina was the one that was giving boys or girls, or cursed to give girls. It's a whole culture around the preference of male heirs, the male children. And that didn't just stop in Europe. that kingdoms in Africa was doing that as well. There was a little bit more nuance when it comes to there being female rulers, but not all of the kingdoms was doing that. What else, y'all? Community support disparities after gender is revealed. Okay. That's a good. That's people's selfishness. Explain it a little bit more, Shonette. Before Islam, for a while, daughters were buried alive if the firstborn wasn't male in Saudi Arabia too. Woo! That's a perfect example. That's one thing. That's old school. What about now? Heard similar cases in Turkey. Oh, we already read that. Could be reaching, but daughters for currency and leverage to move up social economically. Could be reaching, but daughters for currency and leverage to move up social economically. Explain that a little bit. How is that? Explain that a little bit more. That sounds like you're on the right track, but I'm not for sure. So explain that a little bit more. Where you're going with that? How is the system of oppression, that is sexism, that is patriarchy, that is misogyny specifically going to Black women, sexism, misogyny, those systems that are based on the discrimination of women or females, how does that affect them? Because women don't happen until after you born. So I'm going to specifically talk about female. Okay, follow me here, because we know the difference between male, man, and female and woman. There's a, you know what I'm saying? Diamond Stylz is a woman, but she's not a female. Okay. We getting the difference. I know our culture conflates those two, but we're trying to get to a point where we understand the difference between male and female and man and woman. Okay. Diamond never claims to be a female. Never, no. Diamond is a woman, but she's not a female. I know other trans people say stuff different. I'm talking about me. I have never been a female. I always been a woman or a girl. But I think currency and leverage, if I think what you're saying, that currency and leverage in certain culture, it doesn't give social status. Do you see what I'm saying? Sometimes it's negative. So it just depends on what the culture is doing, if that can be a positive or negative. So if the culture, you gotta pay to give your wife a dowry for your wife to get married, then that can bring a negative. Think about if you're in poverty and you poor, and then your little girl get married and you got to give this other family your money. That is a part of some people's culture. And so they don't want to have a girl child because if they're a boy and they get married, they get the money from people. You see what I'm saying? There's some cultures like that. Speak on it. I'm tired of conflating sex and gender on a professional applications. Amen. Um, so yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. And it could be multiple things, but just as easily as we can understand race, we have to understand that there is a gender-based bias that happens and affects babies before they are born. And so, do y'all believe that to be true? I don't know. I just want y'all to just to get a measure of the water. Do y'all believe that there is a gender-based oppression that affects babies before they were born, or affects opportunities for babies before they were born, affects and not just babies, female babies? Okay. Okay. Great. So I see two people says yes. Anybody? Absolutely true. Great, 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 great. I'm so glad that y'all agree. In the US, yes, it's not just the US, but why did you say specifically the US? Because there's tons of other cultures that have gender-based oppression. Why you say just US? Are you just saying it just because that's what you where you live? But it's worldwide. It's definitely worldwide. In the US, yes. What do you mean by that, Powder? Um, but yes, there is you know, a female-based oppression. So, if that is true, do is there an innate in our world male privilege? I hope y'all can see where I'm going with this. I'm just trying to lead y'all down the path so y'all can understand where I'm at. If we believe that there is a systematic oppression that affects female children, there has to be a male babies and children before they were born and after they're born. It is where I have felt this oppression being born here. How would you know the difference if you haven't been born anywhere else? Or similarities? You have to it feels like I would feel like there are examples of other oppression in other places. It should feel the same. Innate, no. Heavily enforced based in traditional beliefs. Yes. Innate. Why you don't think it's innate? Why you don't think it's automatic? Or maybe not innate, automatically. In the system that we live in, heavily enforced based on traditional beliefs. I feel like that makes it innate in our system. Maybe not innate. Okay, maybe that's not the right word. But it seems like it's just automatic. It's like built in, it's ingrained in the system. Yeah, maybe not innate when it comes to the system, because the system isn't birthed. But it feels like what they're being born into. It's just a lot of people going along with what they have been told is the natural occurrence of being. Point taken. You're right. Um, so when they're born into this system with people in their lives and the system that they are born into, believing those things are natural occurrence, even if they're not, they can be affected by these things. I've traveled out the country and seen encouraging behavior around birth. They're literally killing females in India. We gave multiple examples. There's literally people killing and aborting children before they're born because they are girl children. That's not happening in America on that level to where it's an epidemic. I'm not saying that somebody may not abort a child in the United States. They barely can get abortions in the United States now. But there are literally countries who have an epidemic of killing female babies. That's not happening in the US on that level. So what do you mean by that? I think the start of this conversation was you saying in the US, and we're talking about that particular female oppression. So when you travel out the country, what are you seeing that's encouraging behaviors that's different in the US? I'm trying to, in regards to that context, because the system is the default. Yes, Tori, it is. So I heard cases of that in Turkey, but it's hard to get abortion here too. Yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm not ever going to speak in absolute. I'm pretty sure somebody in somewhere in the United States was probably, "Oh my God, I wanted a boy child and I got a girl. Let me get an abortion." I'm pretty sure that has happened. But not to the point, not to the level of countries like, it's literally a epidemic and it's been um deemed an epidemic in India, in Asia, because of their rules around how many children that they can birth, certain parts of Asia and Turkey. Um, so I say that, what are some ways between the ages of 0 and 5? What are some ways that being born a male child can benefit you? In this, being born a male child in this world, what are some benefits of having being born a male child between 0 and 5? Oh, no problem. We just talking. I'm not offended or anything. No need to apologize. I'm just asking questions just for clarity. What are some things that you witnessed, and give me examples of privileges that comes with being a male child between the ages of 0 and 5? Food rations in some countries. Doop. Feeding the boys large portions of food. Doop. It's been well documented. And letting girls starve. Well documented. Genitalia mutilation. And I'm not saying that boys don't get circumcisions. I know they get circumcisions, but their circumcision, there's nothing rooted in their circumcision that is intended to take away their pleasure as a man. That is dismissing their pleasure. There are female genitalia mutilation that happens specifically for taking their clitoris off of their body. That is part of their pleasure. Circumcisions aren't meant to do that. That's not the intention of it. What else? Let's talk about in an American context as well. Make sure we don't have to. I like other examples of a global perspective as well. But I just want, people who haven't traveled out of the United States, or who don't look at global um incidents, gender oppression. If you don't think of what are some examples in the United States, what are some privileges that comes with being a male child between the ages of 0 and 5 years old. My first mind makes me think of a certain level of freedom. There is evidence that people hold babies differently depending on the sex. Interesting. I haven't seen that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just haven't seen it. If you know, link me, please. Um, it's a certain level of freedom. Think about how girls can't, not saying that they don't, this is not a monolithic thing. I'm just saying the common mentality is, I know when I grew up, girls couldn't be out and running around with us. There's some girls that was, especially if they were deemed a tomboy, or if they had like more like and we're talking about from 0 to 5. There was some that had a certain level of freedom that could get dirty, but most girls weren't allowed to get dirty. They had to sit pretty, they had to be cute, they had to be clean, where boys could be running around, legs cocked open. Girls had to close their legs, make sure their dress is down, make sure that they wasn't running around being boyish or mannish. Where boys, or I'll see, I'm talking about me growing up. There was I know we're getting more lax, and there's a little bit more freedom, because I seen a video of some little babies twerking to Sexy Red. Skate. And everybody was in the comments lighting them up, like, why are you letting these little kids do that? They were twerking. Um, I feel like the instilled confidence argument lends itself to the socialized male argument, though. And I think that's where I'm going, actually. And this is where where people have called me a turf for believing this. And I'm not saying that, these are theories. And so I'm not saying that I'm totally right. I could be wrong, but this is, nobody has convinced me otherwise. I think, I think that when a male child is born, we are just like when a black child is born. That's why I brought that up. That's why I started off with that. I think that there is privileges that come with being a male child. There is a certain level of freedom. There is a certain level of confidence that is instilled in male children. And even this is where it gets shaky, where people don't like when I say it. Even if they are a queer male child. Ha! Because even if you are a queer male child that don't got full access to cis male privilege, I feel the fact that they are trying to push you into that direction and your natural being is resistant toward it, they still are trying to benefit you to push you in that direction. Not saying that you don't resist it, and not saying that you give full access to the privilege that come with performing masculinity in the perfect way. Because we know a boy child that perfectly performs masculinity in a certain way, that comes with rewards. But the privilege of somebody even pushing you in that direction is a privilege. And this is just me. My confidence and freedom as a child who they thought was going to be a boy, a male, a black male, a light-skinned black male. People have been calling me, telling me that I was pretty. People have been telling me that I'm gonna get all the girls. Oh, they're really gonna like me. You light skinned with pretty eyes. They really gonna. This is from the time I could hear. From the time that I could hear, people in my life have told me that you are pretty. This is in the sense of what they thought that I was going to be. We're talking about from 0 to 5. Okay. My family, a color struck ass family. I had blue eyes when I was born. I was light skinned. All these things made them treat me in a certain way. I was going to be a heartbreaker. I was going to get all the girls. I was going to be a player. All these points telling me that I'm pretty. So you think that didn't affect me when I was 5? And I'm not talking about molestation, especially one that be flirting. I'm not talking that goes into trauma. And we're not going to talk about how easily it is for girl childs to be traumatized. Not saying that boy childs are not. We're not saying that boy child don't get traumatized at all. But the numbers, the data shows that there are more girl children who are molested at higher rates. But I'm not talking about trauma. I'm talking about privilege. I'm talking about praise and freedom and the good stuff that comes along with being a male child. Girl child, I'm not saying that they don't get praise and called pretty. I'm not saying that. But they're going into a box that's different than the male box. They're going into a box that's full of control and not full of getting them prepared to be freedom. Especially in church and in black elite spaces. It gets worse as they get older, especially in church and black elite spaces. Literally one of the first lessons of my brain in patriarchal oppression was in church. I remember, and I understood at 9 the nuances of that. I remember a boy named Dion who was able to go around the church wherever he wanted and do whatever he wanted because he played football, because he was masculine, because he performed his masculinity to a perfect pitch. They were pushing me to be that. But because my queer self, I was resistant to that. I wasn't trying to mimic that. That wasn't who I was. But they were trying to push me to that. So they were taking me to boys' camps and investing money and taking me on these amazing trips that the girls weren't allowed to go to. And then the girls, I remember one of the Scott sisters, she got caught playing kickball with us in her dress and she got a whooping for it. So I was at 9. I was able to see that there was a difference between me and him, and there was a different privilege within me and her. Are y'all following me? And I know that's anecdotal, but I've seen it all happen a lot for it not to be anecdotal. There was still, even with me as a queer male, I didn't get full access to privilege that a straight cis acting male would do. But there were privileges that came along with me just being born male and they thinking that I should be at the top of the social hierarchy. That my female counterparts did not get. Thumbs up. Y'all following me? And so there's a part of me that believes that male children have a innate, we said the word innate didn't necessarily fit, but there is an ingrained structural privilege that happens, cultural privilege that happen when it comes to male children. And whether they are queer or not, just the fact that they're trying to socialize you to be male comes with privileges, comes with freedom that can lend itself to your personality being more assertive, that can lend itself to your personality being more whatever they push males to be. all the amazing qualities that they try to make males to be, assertive and strong, like a pathway to power. Yes, it. And so yeah, you may steer off the pathway to being this ultimate male power figure in the community, but you still was being pushed to get there. And so that skill set that you learn from those privileges transfer into your womanhood. It transfer into this life that you're living because you can't erase it. That's a part of your experience. Y'all following me? Now I'm talking about me. Right now I'm going to move it back to me. You can't get me to believe that me being born a male child and having the freedom to speak my mind, the freedom to speak my mind, and them pushing me to be a strong black man. You cannot get me to believe that the residuals of that didn't affect my life and affect me being able to say, no, I'm a woman. I'm going to choose my path. I'm going to be the master of my domain and do what I want to do and how I want to do it. You can't convince me that that wasn't a part of my rearing, that instilling that confidence in me to do that. I can't see this word because of that heart is in the way. What's that M word? But you are also able to identify it as learned behavior because of how trans men also utilize the power in self-actualization. And if you talk to them, ask them, when did they start that? Because if you look at the numbers, look at when the amount of trans women who transition earlier, particularly in the Black community, the amount of trans women that transition earlier compared to the amount of trans men that transition earlier. Usually we transition way earlier than them. They transition later in life on a more frequent basis than us. And I think one of those reasons is because we have that innate freedom that's been given to us to buck up against the system. They learn it later, not saying that they don't eventually learn it. But I think and this is just a theory, I think one of the reasons why they transition later than us more frequently is because of that. It's because they're teaching us to be our own person and and be the dominant person, the dominant choice making leader in our own lives. We are born into that system that privileges male children. And I think that affects our behavior. Now, you know, I think there's some hints to that. Now, this could be a part of my PhD to find the evidence if I wanted to take my ass back to school. But I do not. But facts. It also explains why trans men are ignored even more. Now, that's where we gonna flip it a little bit. Because I have some theories about being ignored. Um, that I have been jumbling around my head. So let's switch the topic, switch topics. So that's so let me end that before I go back to it. Um so my point of having what we just were discussing is that there is, to me, in the same way that racism affects children before black children before they are born, I think that sexism, misogyny, patriarchy affects female children before they are born. And between the ages of 0 and 5, it affects them. And so by the time a trans person, usually we start having these gender identity issues around 5. Sometimes it's a little bit later, blah, 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 blah. But usually trans people, it starts about on average around 5. So by the time we get to the point where we starting to have this kind of dysphoria, kind of like this misalignment in where our brain is going and our physical is going, I think we have already been affected by the world. Our mother was affected by it. I was just talking to a friend about this. This is jumped from one side of the patriarchy to the other. So let's talk about another thing, because this is where it gets real weird about trans misogyny and how it can affect us. Okay, so that topic. So what happened in that topic was he posted the thing about the trans woman, and then he let the cis women come in and get to talking, being real transphobic in the thing. So let me give y'all another scenario. This is not my story, but just for the sake of telling the story, I'm gonna use me as the person. Okay, this is not my story. This is somebody else's story that I was a part of, but I'm going to tell you from their perspective. All right. So I get hired at this organization. And my job is to connect the leader of this organization to funding and resources, people with money, so they can bring money into the organization. So my job is to make connections. The whole overall goal is to bring money to your organization. Okay. But because you don't know how to do it, you don't got the skills. I got the skills and I got the connections. So let's do this. So you contract me to do that for you. I get paid a certain amount of money and I make the connection for you. Now, I can't force them to give you money, but I can put you in a position to have conversations that you normally wouldn't have because you don't have the connections that I have. Okay, y'all following me? So I'm a consultant with the job of connecting you to money, however that may be. And sometimes, because of the connection, I'm the one that is the finesser. You feel what I'm saying? Like us trying to get you some money, it might be me. It might be me the one that's finessing the conversation, and you come in and close it. Like we a team, we trying to make you money, and I bring you the connection. Are y'all following me? Want to make sure. So easy. So I am a trans woman, and you, the one who hired me, is a trans man. For whatever reason, You don't have the confidence of me or the social skills of me. This could be multiple things. It could be the thing that we just was talking about from childhood, or it could be I was a sex worker and I just know how to. I got the swag of convincing people. Okay, I got the swag of convincing people to buy into whatever I'm trying to get them to buy in. It could be that. We don't know if it's nature versus nurture. Da 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 da. It could be that. But at the end of the day, when we compare me and you, I got to get the gab. I got the swag, I got the finesse. And I'm just trying to bring you into the room so that you can build on my finesse of this person to try to convince them that your project is the one that they need to invest some money in. I can't give the yes or no, but me and you can tag team in selling your dream. Okay? So this is a trans man. I got this connect with this major lesbian organization. Okay. And I meet her in this beautiful time. Like, for whatever reason, like we met like maybe 10 years ago. And this lesbian fell in love with me because I had a personality. I wasn't too much. She just liked me. She thought I was dope as fuck. She's rich. She's dated a rich woman. She's been rich. And me coming into the space with her, it feels like I was one of her people. It didn't feel like some weird class difference. I wasn't begging. I wasn't doing nothing. For whatever reason, she liked what I had going on and she liked me. So any one of my projects that she hear about, she fucks with and she'll give me some money on it. That's one of the reasons why I got a connection with her. Okay. And she's deep in lesbian culture, deep in lesbian philanthropy. So she got connection to money, millions. Okay. So I connect you, the trans man who is over the org that has hired me to get him connected to some money. I hire him. I mean, he hires me and I get him a Zoom call. Okay. I get him a Zoom call with this dope ass lesbian I know. Now, I know my job is to introduce you to her and be like, oh, this person is doing, let's call him William. Okay. William is doing amazing work at Shabula Bula Bula Inc. And Shabula is doing amazing work for trans women, trans men, women, just women's care, and blah, 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 blah. They're doing so amazing work, amazing work, amazing work. Sell, 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 sell. So I'm selling William's leadership. I'm selling his program. I am really introducing him to this woman who doesn't know him. Okay. When we get in on the call, the lesbian, and now I'm going to get out of character. This is Diamond. Back to Diamond. Now I want y'all to understand this. This is a separate lesson. When it comes to people and philanthropy and money, motherfuckers, they support people they like. Okay? I know the veneer is we care about humanity. Oh, we care. We want to dismantle the oppression. We want to stop racism. We want to stop sexism. We want to stop misogyny and poverty and house everyone. This altruistic, amazing thing. That's the veneer. But the reality of philanthropy and motherfucker giving their coin, their hard-earned money, they give their money to whoever the fuck they like. Think about yourself. Who do you give your money to? It's more than likely, I'm not saying you don't give the bum $1 or something when you walk past them. In that moment, you might give them something that you like. And that bum better ask you in a way that feels comfortable for you to even give them the dollar. Clock that. Because if he come to you like, you rich, you got the money, why don't you give me $1? And be all rude, you might not give that motherfucker no dollar because he being rude. But if he come like, or however he comes that you like, you'll give him $1. You still gotta like the motherfucker. Y'all following me? It is the same with other people. People support who they like. They support project who they like. And we ain't even talking about the benefit of paying taxes, because sometimes it don't be a lot of money that they're evading when it comes to charity work. But yes, there are some benefits when it comes to tax benefits. But I'm just talking about somebody giving their money. And another thing, when you so rich, you ain't worried about no tax write-offs because you so rich, girl, here you go. When you get to a certain level, when you get to millions and millions and millions of money, child, you got accountants that's worried about tax write-off, child. You is not worried about tax write-offs like that because your accountants are handling that. They know the rules of tax to avoid you spending all kind of money. So when you thinking about giving money to somebody, you ain't thinking about that shit because your accountants and tax accountants are dealing with that. So in this meeting, or you engaging with somebody, you ain't thinking about tax evasion. You ain't thinking about that. You thinking about, do I like this motherfucker? Do I like what's being presented? Did this align with something that I fuck with? Is the person leading it somebody that I fuck with or connected to somebody that I fuck with? Okay, back to the story. So with that in mind, the lesbian in the conversation gets to talking about a party that me and her went to. And she's reminiscing about it. She's reminiscing about those were the good old days. Oh, it was a different time. You remember that girl? And she's talking to me. Now, mind you, this is a professional meeting, a philanthropic professional meeting. But it is a connection. I'm just making a connection. So when she's talking to me, she's having a moment of nostalgia about when we first started being cool. And we haven't talked in a minute. So we spent a little bit of time reminiscing on the amazing thing that we used to experience back in the day. So this is her being personable. This is her being cool. This is her laying the foundation of our friendship. This is her reminiscing about that stuff. This is us. This is rekindling the fire that made her like me in the first place. Okay? That made her like me in the first place. And then so I'm going along with the reminiscing. I'm like, girl, yes, you remember when we did this? You remember when we did all of this to the trans man? It's annoying him because he don't understand that this is a part of finessing her. This is the part of getting her to like you. If she likes me and I'm introducing you to her, the goal is to get the money. The goal is to get her to like you. And if she likes me and I tell her that she should like you, she's going to like you and support your project. It's not rocket science. So we get to talking and she tells me, yo, I really need you to be a part of this project that I got going on. So anybody know in the game of this type of game, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. This is her telling me she wants me to do something for her. Okay? Me, you can be bored on the pole, but you can't look bored if you want the money. Huh. Come on. Know what game you playing. So she's telling me, the connect, oh, I need you to be a part of this project. And it's these people who I'm trying to push to be more trans inclusive, and I need you to help me with it. Come and be a part of this project with me, so I can push these people, these turfy ass lesbians, to be more trans inclusive, and I think you will be the perfect one. So blah, 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 blah. I want you to come and be a part of this program. Okay? So now I was like, oh, girl, yes, 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 yes. I'm down with that. Blah, blah, blah. Send me the link and I can make it work and blah, 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 blah. But let me tell you about girl, let's get to the point of this conversation. I want to introduce you to William. This is William, trans, masculine, blah, blah, blah. I give the whole sickening bio. And I want you to learn about his Shabuda Inc. Program. It is doing amazing work. It has a long history of doing amazing work. This and this and this and this and this. And yeah, I want to introduce you to him. Hey, William. And William comes in and he is so pressed about the conversation that he says some smart shit. Not smart in the sense of as an attack, but something that don't have nothing to do with the conversation. So let's say he says, "Oh yeah, I got a Audre Lorde tattoo on my back." Okay. So me and the other girl, the lesbian, is like, okay. What is what? We don't really know why that was appropriate to say, but cool. Tell her about your work. And so they have a conversation and it goes cool, it goes good. And the philanthropy lesbian says, "Oh, if Diamond likes you and she trusts your work, don't worry about it. I got you. I'm gonna look out for you. Let me talk to some people and we're gonna look out for you." So my job was done, right? You would think that my job was done. The purpose of me doing this, the outcome, idealistically, is she gonna look out and invest in the project. Am I right or wrong? While y'all think about the answer. After we get off the phone call, the trans man calls to have a meeting the next day with me. And he says, "Why would they invite you to be a part of the project? I felt I felt invisibilized. And I don't appreciate that." I'm like, huh? How was I making you feel invisible? Well, I was a lesbian for 25 years before I transitioned to what I am now. Why wouldn't they invite me? I have value. Why would they invite you? Because I'm a woman and that's my friend. And she wants the space to be trans inclusive. And it's a women's space. And you have now transitioned to a man. I have an Audre Lorde tattoo on my back because I was a lesbian for years. You're not a lesbian. Why would you be in that space? It's not just a scarcity mindset. It is transphobia. Transmisogyny too. Because he is particularly not wanting her to be in the space because he does not think that she is a woman. Why would she not be invited to the space? She's a queer woman. Maybe not necessarily a lesbian, but the space is for lesbian and queer women. Specifically women, but it was organized by lesbians. So we have this long conversation of me trying to understand how he was invisibilized. And I explained to him that the purpose of the call is for me to connect you to her money. And that's what we did. She said she got you. So if I had to kiki goo goo gaga at her for her to invest in you, that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I was hired to do. And that's what happened. I introduced her to you, and she wanted to talk about somebody else because in philanthropy, they have to like you. And so she wanted to talk about our pastimes. And now you are dumping your shit on me, making it seem like I did something wrong and made you invisible because I was offered a position at the lesbian event, because I was personable to an investor, to a funder. You felt invisibilized. You could have jumped in to the conversation. Since you have such history with lesbians, you could have came in and jumped in, but you didn't. And there was tons of time that I looked over and I said, well, looked at the screen and said, trying to ease you into the conversation, and you did not participate until I specifically started to push you to talk about your work. And so I said, I'm telling this story because when we got done with the conversation, we the trans men apologized, and we had this deep conversation about how women, their culture is community based. And so most women have a community of women around them, their mama, their grandma, their auntie, their sisters, a community of women around them. Okay. And that culture stays with them for the rest of their life. Even if they get married, they still have that connection with their women family members. That is different with males. When they're little, yes, you have your mama and your family and da 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 da. But once you get to a certain age, and there is a book that I cannot think of right now that I would love to reference right now. Oh God, I can't remember what the name of it. But there is studies after study after study that talks about what the isolation that men go through from boyhood to manhood. When you get older, when you come from this community thing where you got your family, but once you become a male, adult male, you are isolated. You're supposed to find a wife. You're supposed to have babies, get married. You're isolated. It's something that happens between that. There's an isolation that comes with men because there's also and this is not saying, this is just the ingrained in patriarchy. And when you come into your adulthood, you're in competition with your men friends for pussy, for money, for power. Even though you're close friends, when y'all go out to the club, the women are choosing, and you want them to choose you over him. Not saying that this doesn't happen with pick me women and da 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 da. But the dynamics are different because the women, they usually have, if they're going out with their homegirls, they usually have a system of protection for each other because of rape culture and da 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 da. So it's still a different type of community. They are the prize culturally. They're supposed to be chosen. They're not going after. in competition with their people. Not saying that they're not in competition. I want y'all to know the difference of what I'm talking about. Okay? They have a culture community within them that keeps them as a together unit. We are protecting each other. If you get in the car with a dude, give me get his license plate number and send it to me. Do you get the difference? Men don't usually do that because how rape culture is, who does what is different. Men don't usually have that system of protection that keeps them community. Okay? So what happens, and y'all trans men chime in, please. I'm saying this because I'm saying this this is not my experience. I'm saying this from what trans men have expressed to me. What happened is that when you come into your manhood, coming from whatever you were before, whether it be a lesbian, because most trans men, they start off as a lesbian. I'm not saying that that's all of them, but most of them start off in the lesbian community and then switch over. Okay. The ones that have talked to me multiple times, they lose that women community and manhood is isolating. They lose access to lesbian spaces because now they're navigating the world as a man and they're being seen as a man, especially if their physical difference started to change. They stop being able to go to lesbian clubs or women only spaces without it being awkward and weird. And so they leave that community. And what's over here for them? Gay male community? What if they don't like gay men? What if they don't like men? What's over here? The toxic, predatory male rape culture in the straight community? What's over here? And add the physical difference between cis men and trans men. Over here kind of can be weird to navigate and isolating and make you feel uncomfortable. I grieved womanhood and lesbian spaces for so long. I've heard this so many times. I'm about to blow your mind. Because this too is a setup. That also proves my point from earlier. Trans women don't got to worry about that. Another privilege of being a male child. When you are a queer male child, you are pushed into female women's community. We are pushed to be closer to our moms. We are pushed to be closer to be a part of cis girl. When we grow up, usually cis girls are going to be our friend because men or boys, not men, boys are bullying us. So we become friends with cis women. If our fathers or male uncles or blah, blah, blah are being weird about our queerness, it is usually, not all the time, usually the women who cover us. Because they are used to being in community, in that feminine energy. And so while we don't have access to full womanhood, we have access to that female community thing. So when we transition, while it may be different, we're not pushed out of community that we were already in. Y'all following me? So while yes, me becoming a woman shifted some things, but it did not shift my community connection to the world of womanhood, the world of girlhood. I've been hanging with lesbians all my queer life. I was never kicked out of lesbian spaces. There was one incident where this this masculine of center woman had an issue with me coming to her house party that was supposed to be women only. Now, this is at an age where I was real problematic. Not problematic in the sense of um doing anything to anybody, but problematic in the sense of, sweetie, I don't want no woman. So me coming to this party, honey, I don't want nothing in here. If I'm coming to this party, it's just to drink and kiki and smoke and have fun. It's not for me to be a part of no sex shit. I don't want no pussy. I ain't never had no pussy to this day. At a 43-year-old, I ain't never had no pussy. Child, I want no pussy, girl. So why you got a problem with me coming to the space? It'd be different if I was a cis dude that, fed up. Baby, I don't even be up there with y'all. So, which is what the cis women, when the masculine kind of study woman was giving all of that, they was like, Dama don't want nobody in here. We brought her because she cool as hell and like to play cards and da 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 da. She ain't trying to have nobody, which was true. I'm like, what? Yeah, what? That was what I was thinking. Even though I would have left, but the cis women in the space, the women that was cool with me, was like, bitch, you tripping. Shut up. And kind of, I didn't have to worry about it no more. And this is what I mean. I wasn't pushed out of that space. Thank you, Tori. Do you see what I'm saying? I wasn't pushed as a queer boy. That queerness, men saying faggot, you sugar in your tank, that pushed me out of male spaces. And when I was younger, that pushed me out of the privileges. Not all of them. I just explained that earlier. I still had some, but it stopped them from trying to make me straight. Eventually it was like, oh, ain't no help for him. Now, does that mean the preacher man and my uncles, and they still didn't want me to try to benefit from being a male? They still tried to. They tried to convince me because it's a part of their Christian duty. It's a part of their patriarchal duty to help this boy be a man. Like literally as a child. It literally is a part of ingrained in people's mentality, especially a black man. It is their job. It is their Christian job. It is their patriarchal job. It is their community job to make this little black boy who doesn't have a father be a better man. This little sugar in your tank stuff, we got to fix that in you. So even if some of them gave up, there's somebody that's going to come along to try to help me. Let me give you a little money. Let me give you a little money. Girl, boy, not girl. Boy, let me buy you a suit. Why are you wearing them tight ass clothes? Why are you trying to be a woman? Let me put you on the right track. Let me take you out to dinner. Not trying to have you on no sexually weird shit, but let me take you out to dinner and try to talk you into being a man. So now the privileges, I got this free meal. Are y'all clocking these little small things that would benefit me? But what it also did was the women was like, oh, come on, baby. Even and some of them would be trying to convince you to be a man, to be a man, and this ain't what you want, and but they didn't push me out of community. They still took care of me, and I became one of the girls, even not in physicality, but where do the queens hang out with? Prior to them finding the gay community, where does the young sissy boys be with? They be under their mama, under their auntie, under their girl cousins, in the kitchen learning how to cook, in the kitchen doing the things they not supposed to do. The number of trips that I went on that my sister didn't, under the same guise of turning me into a man that they wanted me to be. Exactly. And so trans men, there is, because of how patriarchy is set up, and they do this, not trans men, but men the cis men, the cis heteronormative culture, do this to themselves. They set this up. Cis malehood, cis heteronormativity is isolating for men. They are trying to be the king of their castle. Being the king is isolating. Being the king who has to provide and protect and do all of these things for his family and his kingdom is isolating. As opposed to being a queen, it's not community isolating, okay? Yes, there is a box, and I'm not saying that femaleness and being a woman is privilege. That comes with a box. It's a golden cage. If you are perfectly feminine and a perfect woman that performs all of that perfectly, and you get in a cis heteronormative relationship, yes, you are going to benefit from being a woman in this culture, but it is going to be a golden cage. You're going to have to keep your body to perfection. You're going to have to abide by his rules, no matter how toxic those rules are. We know the price of being the perfect trophy wife. That comes with a golden cage. You are in a prison of patriarchy. So it is not a privilege. It's not freedom. I know hoteps and misogynists love to sell it like women get privileges. We have to pay bills. We have to open doors and pay for dinners and dates. And y'all set that up yourself. This is what y'all want because you know the person who has the money has the power. Because when women get the money, it start undermining your power. So all of this chivalry shit ain't about protecting women. That's still about patriarchy. I want y'all to clock that. It is about control and power. I am the one, I am the king, and I can protect my woman, and she's not going nowhere, and she can't go nowhere because I have the money, I make the rules. That's what that shit is about. It's not about caring for women. So anyway, but it's isolating for them. And so somebody coming into manhood because they feel like a man can be shocked by that culture. It starts usually around 16, 17. Yes. As soon as you hit 18, you start the isolation role. And about 25, every man for himself. Amen. Come on, Tori. Yes. That's what happens. It's an isolating role. And you know another way that I can point this out to you? I am a child of 3. I'm the oldest of 3. And my mother had all 3 boys. Okay. I was born a male child. I'm sorry. All 3 males. So sometimes I conflate on accident. She had all 3 male children. So now that my mother's male children are older, of course, me, because I don't have sex with anybody that I can procreate with, I don't have no children. But my 2 little brothers have children. Their children, their baby mamas, all have relationship with their sisters and their mothers. So on holidays, their whole family comes together, and my brother is the outsider. And so me coming in, I'm like a whole other level of outsider because I'm on his side of the family. But when we come, it is nothing but her mother and her sisters bringing her mother being grandma and her sisters being auntie, bringing her kids and da 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 da. If my mother had 3 girls, that's what we would be like. We would come to see our grandmother, my mother, and my mother would be helping us. Thumbs up if you're watching. My mother would be helping us with the children. We would be cooking together. There's still a unit that the men just come in. Look at Soul Food, the movie with Vanessa Williams, Vivica Fox, and Nia Long. The men were coming into their community circle of women. The men who married into their family, they weren't going to their family. They were coming to theirs. That's really, really common. And especially with boy children. I'm not connected. My mother was not connected in the same way that their mother is, because it's the mother who is birthing the children. And so the child is going to have a much, much more connection to the mother of the mother as opposed to the mother of the father. Even when you have a two-parent household, that is true on average. I'm not saying all the time. Grandma on the daddy side is usually not as close as grandma on the mama side, because of that female connection. Grandma on the mama side can be close too, but because grandpa on the daddy side has created his own family, and he has taught his son to go create his own family, now he's out of the house. Grandpa over here in his own kingdom with grandma. Now, son, you got your own family. You free. So usually grandma, and I'm not saying that this is absolute, but usually grandma on the daddy side ain't as close as grandma on the mama side. Am I saying something that y'all have that hasn't reflected in y'all life? I'm not saying that every story is like this, but I'm talking about the average story. The average story is that grandma on the mama side is closer to the children. Auntie on the mama side is closer to the children. Whether it's a single mama home or a single two-parent home, mama's female lineage is usually closer because that's her community. That's who's going to teach her about putting the rice in the bottle with the milk and warming it up to keep the baby asleep or something, or teaching them to put the cornstarch on the diaper rash. It's usually them. So, what I see a lot of times in trans men, they come into the man culture and have to grieve womanhood. They have to grieve that community and grieve losing lesbian spaces, because womanhood across most of our lives, we're going to have a community of women that fucks with us, even if it's not our family. We're going to create chosen family that um because it's easy for women to do that. Men don't do that. And so that is also another privilege that comes along with being born a male child. In the sense of, as a trans, as a trans, I didn't have to lose the community that I was already dealing with. Womanhood is a safe place in the sense of protecting each other. I don't now hold on. Wait. Patriarchy is still attacking women. I don't want you to think that. So, in the sense of a trans context, there is benefits that comes with being a woman, because there's nothing that I lose. I've been dealing with women when it comes to community, friendships, platonic relationships. I have always had women in my life taking care of me and not feeling unsafe around me. I didn't have to not be in those spaces. Whereas if you talk to trans men, they had to lose some, and they may not have to lose them all, but they had to lose some of that going into manhood, because, you know, manhood and rape culture and patriarchy can be real toxic. And it depends on how much they adhere to that. Because there are some trans men that are more kind of gender fluid, and, they don't kind of move through the world toxic. This explains why men fall into manosphere bullshit so easily. Yes, they don't want to be held accountable either. That's one reason. They don't want to be held accountable to the work they have to do to build community with women because they are invested in getting the spoils of privilege that comes with being a perfect patriarchal man. They want to be the Andrew Tates. They want to be the whoever the successful, powerful, patriarchal man is. They want to be that. They don't want to dismantle the system. They just don't like that they're not benefiting from it in the way that they should, or the work that it takes to get to that position. If they don't, because they also are affected by, especially like beauty standards. If they not no handsome man, or they're not performing manhood in a certain way, think about not the trans men. Think about the men who always want to say, "Oh, girls wasn't trying to holler at nerds and anime dudes." No, they were. You was just ignoring. You were just ignoring nerdy anime girls. You wanted the Drea Michelles. You wanted the cheerleaders and the bad bitches to look at you, and you're mad that they didn't, but you were simultaneously, just like those bad bitches and cheerleaders were ignoring you. You were ignoring the nerdy girl. Yes, they don't want to dismantle racism. They just want the benefits of being. They want it to be black supremacy. Same system, but just they want to have access to it. They want the benefits of the toxic bullshit, but with no effort whatsoever. Yes. Cause I know nerdy anime niggas that get pussy, that get loves and they life and all that kind of stuff. Because they wash their tail. Cause sometimes y'all motherfuckers be stinking. Don't have good hygiene. Or they go out here and be social. Sometimes nerdy dudes don't go out and be social to find people. They be at home doing nothing because they introvert or whatever. There's so many reasons, but they want to blame women because that is just so easy to do. Oh, they judge me because I'm into anime and da 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 da. The manosphere people play off of that. Definitely was on the receiving end of the toxic anime nigga shit in back in the day. The switch up has been insane. Go deeper into that. I want to know what you're talking about. How did the switch up affect you? Let me go get me a drink. I'm thirsty. I'll be right back. Okay. But yes, thumbs up if you are watching. It is 31 people. And if y'all here, why y'all not thumbsing up? So I like y'all to think about those nuances. This would be what my PhD would be in. I would have to prove these things that I see. Those boys that used to fight us about our interests, we weren't nerdy enough. They made it competition. They were looking for friends. We like, what the fuck? Out them boys, and they dogged us out. Mm. We like the fuck out of boys. Okay, I said what the fuck. We like the fuck out of them boys, and they dogged us out. Mhm. I saw that all the time. Mm. I don't want to drink in that for that cup. I saw that all the time where you are just mad that you didn't get the Dreas. The whatever the pretty popular girl, the athletes got them or the pretty boys got them, and you were just average nerdy dude, and you were mad you didn't get them. But it was tons of average nerdy girls that you could have chose that would have been interested. So yes. I think I would love to have a panel of trans masculine men discussing that. I would love to facilitate that conversation on the show and have a good question. So if you are interested in being in that conversation, email me at diamondstyles@gmail.com. Diamond spelled the regular way, STYLZ as in zebra at gmail.com. I would love to hear y'all discuss the grieving of that process. Yeah. Because I think it's something that keeps coming up because the story that I was just telling y'all. I think that the reason why he had such an issue with that lesbian like embracing me is because of the grieving of that process. Why would they invite you? I was a lesbian for 20 years. Well, why didn't you say that? Not that, but say, ooh, I would love to be a part of that too. I was a lesbian for 20 something years. You could have jumped in the conversation and said that. It's giving Marsha. Definitely. And I was given Sure Jan. Sure Jan. I also think the manosphere is a community of men who peaked early in life, i.e., high school, college era, is their highlight reel. I think that there are some like that, but you also have to count for the people who didn't peak at all. And once they got into adulthood, they still didn't peak. I don't, because think about in your high school, it was only a couple of, a handful of dudes who was like girls and guys who was at like the peak of the in crowd, popular people. Everybody wasn't peaking. And everybody wasn't on the super low end of nerd or low end of unpopular either. It was that there's these middle people, but everybody wasn't peaking. I think that there are some people who didn't peak then and they ain't peaking now. And it's even worse. At least in high school, you had your family, hopefully, everybody don't have this, but you have your community of family. When you go home, you at least are a part of that community, and the culture is saying, take care of the children. I believe the children are future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. It's the whole world is saying, take care of the children. But once you get 18, 24, when you once you get past college age, because your parents still can get earned income credit when you hit 24 if you still in college. But once you hit adulthood and you out the house, baby, they ain't caring about you. They is not caring. They ain't caring about your development. At least in high school, motherfuckers is trying to, put you on the right path. Maybe if you in a good school, motherfuckers try to help you get a little clean, get you some. I don't know. I seen a little bit. I don't want to act like everybody had access to it, but I just saw an attempt by adults to help out high schoolers, whether it be, oh, your mom, your people can't afford you a suit to do whatever this activity. Because we used to have, I don't know if y'all had this in y'all high school, but in our high school, because it was a predominantly black high school, maybe this was happening at y'all school too. So I don't know. I don't want to say that, but I thought it was because it was a predominantly black high school. We had a program in our school called Amens. Our school, I went to Arlington. That was the name of the school. Arlington, and and so we had this program, and it's like, I don't want to say it's like Jack and Jill, but that's what it gave me. It gave me like Jack and Jill. Do y'all know what Jack and Jill is? My people are smart. I know y'all know what Jack and Jill is. It kind of gave Jack and Jill, but on a high school level. It kind of gave church too a little bit. I don't know. Sending love, been watching you for years. With your friend in the beginning, now 30. Hey, CC. Y'all be making me feel old, child. Blessed, but old. In the sense of, we had this group called Amen. Amen. A-men. And if you were in the A-men, in the Amen group, there's certain days and certain things you got to do. Like, and it was like a high school extracurricular activity. And they would do these activities where they had to be in suits. I don't know, because I wasn't no Amen, so I can't. The inner city Jack and Jill. Yes, it it it's hard to explain. I can't tell you exactly what all they did because I was a fag, honey. So they was not fucking with me, and I'm using that language because that's what the language they was using. They was not fucking with me like that. So I don't know what they was doing in the fucking program, because I didn't like most of the motherfuckers that was in it, because it felt like, like the football team, like, there's a certain level of masculinity that I never have access to. But I do remember when there was a boy that was in Amen that came from a family of poverty. They would chip in to buy or fundraise to buy him a suit. So when they have their little things the requirement is for you to wear a suit, they would get all of those boys a suit. And so they could come in and be fly with their suits on. Like, so there's a certain care that would happen for children. Same, but it happened on the girl side too, where when you're a child, it's ingrained in the system of the culture to take care of children. So there's a care. When you get put out on the street, there's a home that you can go to. If women and children get off the boat first. Remember Titanic? It's a certain care that comes with being a child, okay? And once you become an adult, that shit kind of get thrown out of the way. Thrown away. Especially if you're a boy. Because the culture says, man up. Patriarchy says girl should be, now we're not saying that they are. I am in no way diminishing the toxicity that comes with being a girl in the world. No way. So whatever I'm saying, if that's how you taking it, you taking it wrong. I'm just sharing you the other side of how patriarchy harms men. We know women talk about how it harms women all the time. Okay? We do that here too. But I'm trying to kind of shift you to think of how patriarchy harms men too. And I'm saying this, why this is important is for you to divest from it if you are invested in it. That's the point. It's not to give niggas a pass. But it says, man up, be the man of your castle. Girls, you supposed to protect the children, especially girls. Boys, you got to get them ready for manhood, so you need to tough them up. You need to be hard on them. Now, mama is supposed to nurture. Oh, my baby boy. No, leave him alone. Mama's supposed to do that, but daddy's supposed to be stern. Got to man him up. Get him prepared for the real world. Girls, we baby them, and this is healthy. Like if we're trying to healthily raise girls. Now, of course, we know niggas molest girls. Niggas do all that kind of trauma stuff. So don't play with me. But the healthy side is to say, oh, we protect the baby girls. We teach them how to cook and give them baby dolls. So because all they're good for is having babies and cooking and cleaning for us. So we got to give them easy bake ovens. We got to give them baby dolls. We got to teach them how to change diapers early. So we protect and baby our little girls. And then when they get old enough, we transfer them to their husbands. That's why we give them away. That's why we give them away. Daddies give them to their husbands. Now it's your responsibility to protect her. So the ingrained in patriarchal culture is protection of daughter and protection of wife. There's no in between. Now there's some failure that can happen. We know how the world works. But if everything goes as it's supposed to, I'm the father, I protect, raise my daughters. And she becomes this classy, virgin girl that is prepared to marry by the time she's at college age. She finds her husband, and I give her away in marriage. And now her husband protects her, provides for her, just like the father did. So there is an ingrained protection of girls in here. Boys, I protect you because you're my son, but also because you're my son, I prepare you for being the hunter, the gatherer, the provider, the tough, non-emotional. So I give you the he-mans. I give you the hard things. I let you play with rocks. I teach you how to fish. I teach you how to do these things so you can provide. Let me teach you how to tend a garden if you live on a farm or whatever. I teach you these things so you can provide for your family, because your job is to have all the women first, find a wife, and provide for her. So I care for you as a little child, but once you get to like teenage, I have to prepare you to be a man. So, and the women in my life, my wife understands that, so they let me kind of take hold of the discipline. Now, when you was a baby, girl or boy, mama is like, and daddy is like, But once you get into that puberty stage, that and a little bit before that, like 8, 9, that's when mama kind of relinquishes the baby. The culture says this. Tell me if I'm wrong. She with a male child relinquishes the baby in you and says, "Dad, now it's time for dad to come in and be the disciplinarian." And so now dad is having to be tough on you. Boys don't cry. Wipe your face. Toughen up. Play football. Here's a football. Here's a basketball. Especially if you're black, because if you grow up black, you either going to be a rapper, football player, or basketball player. That's the access, especially if you're poor. That's the access to out of poverty. So let me put a football in your hand. We want it to be Mike. To be, I want to be like Mike. Anyway, I'm kind of joking, but kind of not. But now it's time for dad to discipline. Okay. And then when you get a little bit older in your teenage years, now it's time to teach you, like somebody just mentioned, how to mow the lawn, your work ethic, because you got to work to provide for your family, catch and clean fish, hunt. You never know how to manage emotions or express feelings. Absolutely. You feel what I'm saying? And so there comes the isolation, because you're not meant to be, you're not pushed to be still in community in that way. You're allowed to, on Thanksgiving, sit down with the men. Sit down with the men and wait for the women to be in there cooking while your sisters is in there learning how to fry catfish and season greens and bake sweet potato pies. Got it? She's learning that community thing because it's all the women in there. Come on out of here. Come on in. Come on out here with the men. Get out of there with the women. I know that's what my uncles used to say. Come on in here with us, with the men. Let's hold our nuts and man spread. And drink our beers. While the game is on. Only cooking masculine thing that men do is grill. Yeah. Let me flip these burgers during 4th of July. I'm in the beginning. Is this Chrissy person, the Chrissy woman from the YouTube channel, Dark Skin Black Women? No. Oh, how are you in the beginning? You far. We way past that. But no, not Chrissy. It's funny because it's true. Y'all know how it goes. We all live the same life. I know there's some little nuances, but because of how the culture works, we all live in the same life. Y'all done heard the video of y'all done seen videos of like remember that I don't know her name. I think her name is EJ. But she's a cis woman and she kind of do these comedy videos where she's acting like her mother. Come on in here. Come on in here and eat these greens, girl. I cooked them. I can't remember. I think her name is EJ. But she make funny videos pretending to be her mother. And she's saying shit that all of our black mamas have said at some point. Not the grill dad impression. Y'all know how they be. Men have lonely lives, especially in church. The women have a strong community. Amen. EJ speaks. Yes. EJ speaks that all of us had that life. She's describing us. She's describing at some point something that she says we all have experienced what she's talking about. And there is a male version. EJ does the woman because she's a woman. She knows how to pretend to be her. But there is a man version of that too that we all know. That toxic classic dad. Or even if he's not toxic, okay? Even if it's not like bad. But let's just keep it real. Even if it's not abusive, there are certain ingrained things in patriarchal, heteronormative things that are just toxic to people, especially if you are a person that falls outside of any norm. Like if you're not a cishet person, it's toxic for you. If you're not a beautiful person, it can be toxic for you. When it comes to your looks, you don't fit the beauty standard, you disabled, anything that doesn't make you a perfect specimen of a woman, perfect specimen of a man, that system can be toxic for you. So, yes. Um, but yes, I think men's um I think the ones that are more successful, let me think about what can be instead of what is. I think when we allow women to get out of that box and be free and still be heterosexual, they can still be with a man. But we also, I think the best healthy relationships is when men are allowed to be emotional and to be freer than what that patriarchal system says that they can be, even in heterosexual relationships. And I say that because they are the standard. And there are so many, when we talk about queer relationships, I don't want them to be the standard. No, 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 no. I don't want them to be, but they are. We see those heteronormative standards come into queer relationships all the time, especially trans relationships. But I see gay men talking about who's the bottom, who's the top. If I'm the top or I'm the bottom, the top should be paying for the dates because I'm the girl in the relationship. What? Do you see what I'm saying? It comes into the relationship. It comes into queer relationships as well. Those weird that weird mirroring of the toxicity of cis het relationships, which is strange, which doesn't make sense to me because why would we want to mimic them? Because it is our norms. I know in trans relationships, I date men who identify with being straight because it's just more comfortable for me as a woman, as a trans woman. I would be weird dating somebody gender fluid. It would feel weird to me. That can be toxic, but that's where I am. Okay, you got meet me where I'm at. I ain't where I want to be, but meet me where I'm at. And where I'm at is it would feel weird to date somebody it would be not weird. That's not the right language. It would feel weird to date somebody who has a gender fluidity. If I could be comfortable with it, I would love to. But right where I'm at now, I'm not there. It's because I have this standard, this heteronormative standard of what I want my relationship to look like. I don't know if I'll ever get over that. I don't know. But even I know that it's a level of freedom and healthiness that I could find somebody to love and be in a healthy relationship if we both are free. Women have more privilege. Explain that to me. I don't know what's happening. Women have more privilege, young versus men, where their value gets better later in life. Whose value? Explain. I don't get what you're saying. Explain that a little bit more. Whose value gets greater? Women. Women's value gets greater than men later in life. I don't know if I agree with that. To who? And where? How? They meant well, but that shit was laced with toxic, especially never let them see you sweat, man, up shit. Facts. But yes, darlings. Yes, 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 yes. I find it quite interesting. Quite interesting. CC, I agree, but disagree. I think women have more emotional privilege young, but men values don't increase with age, which is the privilege over women. I think women have more emotional privileges. I think they're more I think they are more hmm, that feels like a easy yes, but the only pushback, I have some pushback with that. And I say this because I think the idea that women are more emotional is a misogynistic trope. I think how that emotion is expressed is different, but I don't think men are any less emotional. How men are policed on how they express emotion. They can't cry and be affectionate, but they can be angry. They can go punch walls. They can fight and be violent to express their emotion. They can get it out in that way. Women are not supposed to do that. They can't do that. Women can cry, they can hug and need to tears, but they can't bash somebody in their face and not be seen as manly and not feminine. They can't express their emotion in a certain way because then they will be knocked down a peg. So yes, there is a level of policing that has with men when it comes to um not being able to cry and not being able to get affection in the way that women can, but men are allowed to express emotion in other ways. Sexual emotion, sexuality. Men are allowed to, sow their royal oats. Ain't nobody telling, like, think about Prince Hakeem in Coming to America. Wouldn't nobody be telling their princess to go sow their royal oats? Ain't nobody gonna let their princess go to America to fuck bitches and hoes and then come back to Zamunda and get married. What nobody Ain't nobody doing that to the wife. So there's a sexual freedom. There is a But even that is kind of, because yes, they're in a prison and not able to want to be pure, but women also have a fluidity that they can have when it comes to um sexuality that men don't have. Men have to have sex a certain way. Women, they a little, I'm not saying that, women are just free from homosexual homophobia. We know that they are not, but a girl being gay is a little bit more acceptable than a boy being gay. Let's keep it gutter. Um a, a girl being bi, let's give it some nuance. A girl being bi is a little bit more accepted than a girl being gay. And a girl being a boy being bi definitely is way less accepted than a girl being bi. So I don't know. While that seems like it would be easy yes, that women have more privilege when it comes to emotional. I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like they're both limited in how they can express their emotions. And I think making women seem like they are more emotional is misogyny. Um it is a way to make women seem crazy and out of control based on emotions and illogical. Oh, they can't lead because they're too emotional, and emotion makes you illogical. Totally ignoring men who go crazy and kill their wives or kill their partners or kill their homeboy because he's angry and out of control emotionally. And they make excuses for it because he's a man, even though anger is an emotion. Sadness, just like sadness or any other emotion. So I just feel like making women more emotional and acting like they have the dominant, um, they have this biological emotionality. I don't think that. I think if men and women were able to freely cry, I think they would cry the same amount. Because if you think about movies, ask a man and a woman, what movies made you cry? More than likely, there's going to be some overlap in movies that made us cry. Because we both got invested in the movie, the storyline, and we cried at the same part, man or woman. But you may have held it back more than I have as a man. You may have held it back and it was like one tear, or you got a little watery, da da da. Me as a woman, I can freely cry. Even though we both got emotional at the same exact thing. I think that if we created a world where all of us could be emotional freely in the same way, I think we would have just as many men crying as women, just as many violent, angry women as men. Because I think we do. It just shows up different. And women learn how to control anger because they have to, as opposed to them not having to control sadness and crying. Which is, if you pay attention, when a bitch get real mad, a bitch, especially a bitch like me, because I'm trying to control the violence, I will cry. Because I didn't have to. I could be, once I got free from trying to be a motherfucking boy, I could cry and be free to cry. So I'll cry before I get angry because I'm controlling it. My mother was the same way, and a lot of girls I know, they'll get crying emotional before they'll get violent because they are trying to control the urge to be violent, because girls are not supposed to be violent. We're supposed to be soft and feminine. It doesn't make you look like a good woman for you to be fighting and violent. Human brain are capable of the same emotion regardless of sex and also range of emotions. Societal pressures constrain emotions by sex. It is not a aspect of male or female function biologically. It is not. And we have that nature versus nurture kind of thing. I do think, now this is just as somebody who has been on hormones, and I don't have no science behind this. And they don't study trans people enough to have science behind it. This would be a good PhD study, scientific study for somebody who is listening, who may be into it. Um, this is the best analogy that I can come up with to give this, because I haven't thought about anything else. It may be a better one, but this is the better one. This is a different one. So, because I've been on hormones, and I have been in a state where my testosterone was at normal heights, and I have been as a male, and I have been in a state where my estrogen was at normal heights as woman compared to female normal heights. Try not to conflate the two. So, emotionally, when I have my testosterone high, okay? When I am not on hormones and I am producing the normal level, like biology is running its course, and I am producing the normal male level of testosterone in my body. Compared to when I am on hormones and they are in the normal range of female, the chemicals. Emotionally, I feel like, when you were little and you had a box of crayons, the 24 box, and the little box was like, the little 24 crayon box, and you had all them colors. You had red, yellow, blue, the basic colors, green, brown, black, white, the basic colors. But then when you get a little older, they give you that big old 64 pack of crayons with the sharpener on the side of the box. And you got goldenrod, periwinkle, burnt sienna, these special kind of colors. You still got the red, black, the green, the yellow, but they gave you a little bit more range of color. That's what it feels like when my estrogen is high. My emotional range feels more varied. Whereas I still have the basic colors in that I had in that little box, but I have a wider range of colors, different types of blue, different types of yellow, different types of green, different types of red. Black is still black, white is still white, brown is still brown. Got some oranges in here. I got some golden rods. You see, are y'all following me? Like, it's something about when my estrogen is high that I have a wider range of emotion as opposed to this little 24 box. Still the basics, but it just feels like I don't have the range. Does that make sense? Because when I'm not on hormones, I don't be giving a fuck about these niggas, baby. When I'm not on hormones, baby, I can hit them and quit them and not care about nothing. I have no emotion. But when I'm on estrogen, and not on estrogen, my estrogen is high. We all create estrogen. Um, when my estrogen is high, I feel everything. Like it feels like everything, good or bad. I get connected to it really fast. I get connected to things. Shit hurt my feelings faster. Shit makes me feel better faster. Um there's a small shit will get under my skin faster. Um I get there's just a it's just the range of emotionality is different. I do think that it's the range. I don't think how we can express them can be different, but the range for me when I have high estrogen, it does feel different. I hope that makes sense. All righty. What have y'all been watching? So I have recently been watching Nature versus Nurtures. Do you think it's easier to see the range of colors because you've seen, lived, and learned them from your community? And also how have you always and also how have you always identified? Are those separate questions or the same question? Because you've seen, lived, and learned from them from your community. I don't understand the question. Explain it again, Tori. Nature versus nurture. Do you think it's easier to see the range of color because you've seen, lived, and learned them from your community? No. My community has nothing to do with my emotions. They affect my emotions, but how I experience emotion, that's on the inside of me. And also, how have you always identified? Um, yeah, so when I was younger, or if you talk about my identity and how I saw myself, when I was younger, I saw myself as a little boy early on. So think like 3, 4, 5. And then when I hit like 5 and 6, it started to feel different. It started to feel like, hmm, maybe something ain't right. I didn't have the language for it, but I started to be like, hmm, hmm. But I didn't say nothing because I didn't have that kind of family. My mother didn't have the range at all. Um, I love Has Been Hotel. I love that. And so when I got to, let's say, 8, so from 6 to 8, I was like working it out in my mind, like what everything was, you know, what parts girls have, what parts boys have, what girls are supposed to do, what I'm supposed to do, and none of this feels like me. What I'm supposed to do as a boy doesn't feel like this is what's right. Now, I did not have the language of I knew I was trans at this age. No, I didn't know nothing about no trans. I didn't know none of that. All I knew at this age is the derogatory term that was fag. I didn't know what gay meant. I knew what the derogatory. I knew that fag, gay, homo, gay blade, whatever these names, I knew they had derogatory connotations, but because I didn't have no idea of sex, I didn't know that they were talking about boys having sex with boys or girls having sex with girls. I didn't know anything about that. Like I just knew that they were bad words. Like I knew that they were, they meant something bad, but I didn't know exactly what it meant. I didn't really learn that gay meant boys liking boys until like 8 or 9. But I had been called it since I was probably like 5. I think the first time, and not called it in that way. I remember the first time somebody asked me why did I act like a girl was I was 5. I was in kindergarten. And one of the boys asked me, "Why do you act like a girl?" And I said, "I don't act like a girl. What are you talking about?" Just like that. I didn't know what acting like a girl meant. I didn't know. I didn't know what it was. I was like, "What? Uh, I don't act like a girl. What are you talking about?" And there was, I don't want to say it was a shame, but it was like a confusion. Like, what is acting like a girl? What does that mean? And he said, I talk like a girl. I talk like a girl. And how he was doing it wasn't in a bully way. It wasn't in I'm a little kid and I'm being mean to you. He literally is writing, not writing or coloring or something. He's like, "Why do you act like a girl?" And I said, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't act like a girl. What are you talking about? You talk like a girl, though, to me. You is like, like, this is how he's doing. You talk like how you say stuff is like a girl. It's not like a boy. Like, I talk like a boy, like this, but you kind of talk like a girl. And he's just sitting there coloring. And I was just confused, just as confused, baby. I remember it like it was yesterday because it was the first time it happened. And so, and he wasn't doing it in a bully way, so it didn't induce shame. Like it didn't induce feelings of, ooh, I have to change my voice. He said it in a way that was just an observation. It wasn't a shame. Now that will come later. Um, he just observed it. Like he's just like, yeah, you talk like a girl. It was just a young boy's observation of me. And so I go home and I ask my mother, do I act like a girl? And my mother, who at the time I didn't know, but I would come to learn later, my mother was being pressured by the people around her to not let me be under her so much because they see that I'm turning into a little faggot. Now, I didn't know this. My mother never told me this until I got older, but this is what she was navigating, my mom. And so she said, y'all see my hat? Isn't this hat cute? I just got this hat. It's so cute. My hair look a mess, but hmm, it's such a dope hat. I see it. It's like a little knob here, but it kind of looks like it's a felt little hat. I think it's cute. Anyway, so when I got to like 7, 8, 9, that's when my peers, shit had happened before this, but when it started to like physically affect me, like me experimenting with boys my age, and I would get an erection, and it started to be fun. Like when it like 8, 9, when I started realizing that I'm turned on by boys, when I started to feel like um this all was simultaneous. This wasn't separate. I started to feel like because prior to this, like between 5 and 6, I started like tucking because once I learned that girls got something different than boys, I started like tucking. And my mother would catch me tucking and would say shit like, what are you doing that for? You're a boy. You know what I'm saying? She would do that kind of stuff. So that was kind of not in a whooping mean kind of way. It was just kind of like I don't know. It just was like, oh, I was tucking because I felt like that's how my body part should look. It should be empty like my mother's, and it should be empty like my cousin Tanny, because I had a cousin Tanny who was 3 years older than me, but she didn't have no dingling hanging down, and I felt like I was supposed to not have no dingling hanging down. And then my brother, not my brothers, my friends, they had dinglings hanging down, but I didn't feel like I was supposed to have dingling hanging down. So that's how my kid brain was thinking. And so once I got older, then it started to be more of a sexual nature where I already had the identity stuff, but then because of testosterone, because I started growing pubic hairs because testosterone was coming up, probably around 9 or 10. So that means that the testosterone started to happen in my body around that time. So this is when, I'm experimenting with peers. We playing with each other's dingling. Um, I'm being way more self-conscious about my body. This is also when girls are starting to have periods and start to grow breasts. So prior to this, boys and girls they both don't have no breasts. They both flat chested. And so and our clothes aren't much different. I know around the neighborhood, the girls who were allowed to be free. Now there was some girls who weren't allowed to come outside. Like I remember there's some girls that live in my neighborhood that weren't allowed to kind of go out because they weren't allowed to like get dirty or do boy stuff. But there also was some girls who they mama just wasn't as strict, and so they could be outside and playing with us. But they would get cussed out like if they got there like that. Like I remember this girl, they lived across the street. So they were like three sisters, and their mother would say stuff like, "Oh Lord, you're gonna be a battle axe." Like if she was fighting, like if they fighting, she would say smart shit like, "You gonna grow up and be a battle axe, gonna have scars all over your body." Because she had scraped up her knee from running and falling or something, and she called her a battle axe. Y'all know what a battle axe is? Um, it's people who have like scars and shit all over their body, and that's not feminine. Don't nobody, she would say, don't nobody want no woman with scars all over their legs and scars all over their body. You need to stop running around like a little boy. Like she would say stuff like that to her, and I just would be listening. Now, while I'm navigating this, I'm also navigating these feisty ass little girls. I can't punch them. Now, me and the little boys can fight, but because I'm a little boy, I can't punch them, and they can punch me without it being any kind of consequences, which I hated that shit. Because they were girls, I would get in trouble for hitting girls, even though they hit me like harder than my boyfriends was doing. My homeboys, they hit me just like they doing, so I want to hit both of their ass back. But what would happen is if I hit them back, everybody would be like, "Oh, you don't hit girls, you don't hit girls, you don't hit girls." And I'm like, bitch, they shouldn't be hitting me. So I'm navigating all this kind of stuff. And then, but I'm also seeing her being kind of reprimanded for being a rough and tumble girl. And her mama making them all go in. Like if when she got her legs scraped up, her mama said, you out here being a battle axe and running around like a little boy and and made all three of the girls go in the house while me and the boys were still out there playing. So, but then me and the boys that night, honey, would be touching and feeling. So once I get to like 10, I learned how to masturbate. 9 or 10, I learned then I'm starting to feel like I'm starting to, just have this identity inside of me instead of, because it's hard to explain. So, what was going on in my brain and what was going outside, I learned that I needed to hide what was going on in my brain because people didn't respond to what was going on in my brain the way they didn't respond well to it. Anything about me liking boys, anything about me being a girl, anything about any of that, mm-mm. It was a bad reaction. It was a whole thing. So I just kept all the ideas and the feelings um and everything to myself. I just kept it to myself. So once I got to like 12, 13, that's when I met Deja. When I met Ty, who y'all know as Ty. When I met her, um, we both were still going by our dead name. And I started sneaking out, going to the club with the gay people. And I remember being on a bus stop and I had on a hoodie. I was working at this, during the summer, I don't know if this was against child labor laws. I don't know what it was. But I know I was like young, 13, because I was about to go into high school. There was this kids program that you earn a bus ticket like for 3 months from June, July, and August. So for the end of May to the end of August, that's when back in the day, we used to have a long time for us to be during school break. It started getting smaller and smaller once folks got older. Um, but that whole time we would get a 3-month bus ticket where we can ride whatever we want on the bus. And so we would get paid like a minimum wage and get that bus ticket. So for somebody who's 13, getting a check and getting that bus ticket, that was like, ooh, yay. Because you can go to the mall, you can go wherever you want to go on the bus. But that's how it was a job. It was a summer job, basically. And so during that time, I was on the bus and I was in a hoodie and I was sitting on the bus stop waiting for the bus. And I see these girls, and I didn't pay attention at first, but I see them. And then I start listening to their conversation. And so imagine a teenager with the hoodie on over their head, just kind of looking. And I look over because they sound funny as hell. And I look over, and it is girls, but they got the deepest manly voices that I hear that I'm like, oh my God, are these dudes? I'm like, are these girls or boys? And so I'm looking at them and I'm trying not to stare. So I kind of look under like of my hoodie to see what's going on. And this was my first encounter that I know of alone with trans women. And they are on the bus stop talking about hormones. They're on the bus stop talking about the trade. They're on the bus stop talking about all kinds of shit. Like they're just girl shit and they're just talking about it. Like, girl, I went to and just talking. And I am gagged because these are trans women. My first engagement with trans women. And in my brain, I'm like, you can be a girl? Because it never was a possibility. Because how I grew up, we didn't have no access to no girl stuff. And Jerry Springer didn't really exist at that time. Um, this is 92, 93. No, 93, 94. This is around 93, 94. And so there just wasn't this trans stuff happening on TV. So I never had saw it. I never had saw it before. So I didn't know nothing about hormones. I didn't know nothing about none of this was possible in Indianapolis because it just wasn't around. Like I bet you it might have been different if I was in like New York or San Francisco or somewhere else. But in Indianapolis, motherfuckers wouldn't just run around. So this was on TV and da da da. This was a whole mind-blowing event for me because I did not know that people were out here living as opposite genders. Didn't even know it was a possibility. Didn't know. But I went home that day and I was actually living in a group home. Went home that day and it racked my brain. Like I barely could sleep. Like what is happening? And from the context clues of what they were saying, I was picking up where the gay clubs was because I was standing there. Like I literally missed my bus to just sit and listen to them talk, just absorbing everything they were saying. They were saying shit, Betty Boobs. They were saying, I remember them saying Betty Boops, which was a gay club. So I had to look up Betty Boops in the white pages. I had what they said hormones. They were saying Dr. Garfield. What else did they say? Just little breadcrumbs of me trying to find stuff. And I would just ask people and ask things. Then I went back, then I ended up going to school. And that's when I met Mario. No, that's when I met I went back. Ty ended up coming to the Guardian home. Not Guardian home, the Evans house, which is the group home. Ty ended up coming to the group home. And so that's when I met her. And we like, oh, you trans too. And so we were like, we just soon as we met each other, we was like, click together. And so we would sneak to the gay club and we knew from that point on, the goal was to become a girl. The yellow pages, wow. Time has passed. Google replaced it. Yeah, so we had to. So it just made it a possibility. Me meeting those trans girls at the bus stop, it just made it a possibility in my brain because I didn't know it was a possibility. The rules of the world was you're a boy, you're gonna always be a boy. Boom. Now that wasn't what was going on in my mind. What was going on in my mind is like, God, I feel like a girl. I feel like I should have been a girl. I feel like I'm supposed to be a girl. I feel like that's what was going on. But anytime I said that, there was a negative, visceral reaction to the people around me. So I had to keep it to myself. But once I saw them girls, I was like, oh, this can happen. And once I got to the group home, once my mother was an addict, a crackhead, and da-da-da-da, my mother, and I said, I talked about this before. If my mother wouldn't have been an addict, I don't think that I would have transitioned as early as I did. Because there was something, it still would have been in me, but I think I would have did it later because there was something in me that wanted to be my mother's best thing. I never wanted to disappoint my mother. Like there was something about my relationship with my mom that made me want to impress and be my mother's best thing and to impress her and be her favorite and be her pride and joy. I didn't have any relationship with anybody else like that. I wanted to be nobody, no man in my life, nobody. I wanted to impress my mother. And so I think if my mother was a traditional mother, I think I would have held on to the idea of impressing her for way longer. And I don't think I would have transitioned. I still would have wanted to, but I don't think I would have because I wouldn't have wanted to disappoint her. But because she was an addict and she was disappointing me as a mother, it gave me a freedom from that bondage. It gave me a freedom from that prison to impress my parent. Where other people, they may still be in that prison. But that probably comes later. But once my mother became an addict, I was like, child, I'm out here in the world. I'm going to be me. And that's what happened. So once I was in the group home, I don't care about these adults in this group home. Who care about y'all? I started living as Diamond. And my goal was to slowly, once I got out of junior high and went to high school, slowly transition. Start wearing tighter clothes, grow my hair out, get on hormones, trying to find a hormone doctor. So by the time I turned 16, I had found a hormone doctor. I was getting my nails done. My hair had grown out. Yeah. And so that's how I identify. That's to answer your question. That's how my identity grew. I didn't have some like debilitating hate for my body. Once I learned what trans was, or no, not trans, because I didn't even think about it in a trans until I got in community and they gave me the language to describe it. In the beginning, it was just, oh, I can be a girl. I'm gonna be a girl. I didn't even think about. I didn't even know what transgender or transsexual was until I went to Betty Boop's. When I went to Betty Boop's, then I met other transsexuals. Older ones. And so once I got on hormones, I didn't really notice that emotional difference until I was like 18, where I just felt way more easy to cry. It reminds me of a great comedy movie, Ghost World, a must see, Scarlett Johansson. Never heard of it. What is it about? I still remember the light bulb moment. When was yours? And so from that point on, it was just about, all right, I know what I need to do. I need to get implants. I need to get on hormones. I need to get implants. And I need to get a sex change. So from 13 to 22, I wanted to have a sex change. Thora Birch, I love Thora Birch. Young teenager coming of age, best friends with adult relationship. Oh, I'm gonna have to see it. I love Thora Birch. So I wanted a sex change between 13 and about 22. I stopped being invested in getting gender reassignment surgery when I was probably like 22. It stopped being of interest to me. Then I started learning about more detailed surgeries like FFS, because this is when Dr. Asterhoff, everybody wasn't doing FFS. Dr. Asterhoff, which is like the groundbreaking FFS doctor. Dr. Asterhoff was doing surgery, and it was like $30,000-$40,000. So as a person my age, black, poor, trans girl, I didn't have access. Having access to that amount of money, that was like, you might as well tell me I needed $1 million. Because I never had worked. I never, you know what I'm saying? So, but that didn't stop me from dreaming. So I was like, oh, well, eventually when I get older, I'll get a job and I'll be able to save for it. And so I was calculating how much I needed to save. But then I was like, oh, well, what do I need to get first? Do I need to get my sex change first, or do I need to get my implants first? That would be easier. And so I started looking at implants and sex change. Then I met the girls who were pumping. I was like, ooh, I need to get pumped. Because I would see girls who I was like, God, how did you get your body like that? And so, but then I see girls that was getting deformed and shit. So I was like, ooh, I don't want to go to that lady. And then I got my face done when I was 19. And my titties done at 19. I was skinny, skinny, skinny. So, and I wasn't skinny like as in no booty, no nothing. You know, I had booty. And so, you know, I was given modelistic fish. So, but I still wanted, that's not what I wanted to give. I wanted to give, Players Club. I wanted to give Lisa Ray and Ronnie, Miss Diamond from Players Club. That's what I wanted to give. Body, yaddy, yaddy, strippers. So, then I found, at like 22, found the pump person in Mexico. And child, got my body right. But I stopped wanting gender reassignment surgery because it stopped being, when I started doing research on it, it stopped being efficient for me enough. And I started to just accept being a trans person. And once I got to that mindset where there's nothing wrong with me being trans, like once I started undoing the mindset of being this perfect cis mimic or cis imitation, and started to think about, I can be trans. I can be a trans woman and be okay with that. Once I started to get to that point, oh, it was over. I got my body where I wanted it to be. I was going out in the world and not getting clocked and really just living my life. Like, ooh, I'm out here free. I got my boyfriend. I just started to have more, I just started to be more passable and started to have more access to being treated like a woman. And so I didn't need to have no sex change child. Get out of here. I'm out here living my life. I got a job where didn't nobody know my tea. I was getting, I was getting my life. And I know that's a long way to answer your question, but that's how I identify. That's how my identity evolved to where from when I was born, whatever I think about when I started to have the thoughts, to when I became Diamond, when I became a young adult trans girl trying to figure out how to make this work. Once I learned that it was possible, once I was trying to figure out how to make this work. And luckily I came up in a time where we had the internet, man. We didn't have the internet early on, but by the time we get to a certain like late 90s, the internet was kind of getting a little bit more accessible. The white trans women with access was putting up shit. Like, I remember TS Roadmap. Let me see if tsroadmap.com still exists. TS Roadmap. It still exists. Wow. It still exists, by Andrea James, white trans woman. Shout out to Andrea James, an icon, baby. Still here, still taking care of it. She shitty for this still being up. Let me send y'all this. Shout out to Andrea James, privileged white trans woman. Out here saving lives. Here we go. Transgenderroadmap.com. It was supposed to be roadmap, but I guess she changed the language a little bit. It was roadmap. And so it would teach you, like, you could print off. When I used to come here when I was younger, I could print off like your legal papers to change your name. Come on, Andrea, you should it. Site history. Let me go to site history. Background. In 1996, I wanted to create a way to help transgender people that was like our bodies, ourselves. A friend of mine told me I should make it like a map. I thought that it was a great idea. We needed a map of the gender transition for those of us brave enough to come before us, to guide those who come after. Just like any early map, the map isn't perfect. Some parts may be wrong or missing, but if we all work together, the map becomes better and better. Gender transition is different for everyone. Your path will be unlike anyone else's. Some people want to get their destination in a big hurry on the faster route they can find, even if it's harder or not as safe. Others want to take a slow, smooth road. This site talks about as many of these roads as possible. This is a no one right path. There is no one right path. Everyone has a different destination, different timetable, different resources available to get there. A lot of trans people seem to say, my way is the only good way. This is not true. There are, however, shortcuts that can often make your path easier. I talk about those here as well as my personal opinions. I'll let you choose if they are right for you. Yep, TS Roadmap. This is so dope that it is still up here and she has preserved it. This is iconic, y'all. I just want y'all to understand. I just want y'all to understand this. I just want y'all to understand that this is quite iconic. So, like I said, this is 98, 99, 96. She said it started in 96, but I've discovered it in around like 97, 98. And so they would let you print off. Shout out to Andrea. This is so sickening to me. They would let you print off. It kind of looked like Craigslist, but it was like these different links that would link you to different things. Like you could get your name change. You could print off your name change papers, all this kind of stuff. When I first got online, I was working in Chicago Tribune. They were trying to figure out electronic delivery of local news. They had text-based options they were trying in the 1990s. In 1995, I signed up for AOL because they had Usenet access as well as wall garden chat room options, even though AOL charged a steep hourly fee and mentioned the word transsexual was a violation of their terms of service. I spent a lot of time looking at Usenet groups, especially SOS Support Transgender, founded in 1994, and Alt Support SRS, founded in 1997. In early 1997, I published a 3-part report on UN Usenet called My Facial Feminization, because there was not an option to display before and after pictures there. I used AOL. Now, mind you, this is an icon, bitch. I just want y'all to understand this. That she's telling you about when I'm talking about 94 and I'm in junior high, she's telling you about she's a grown trans woman getting FFS at this time. All of our life stories overlap, and I love when people document them. Because there was no option to display before or after pictures. So imagine, remember when YouTube was starting, we had people showing surgeries and shit like before and after. They didn't have this at this time. And so that's what she's explaining. I used AOL to create a website that included images. I was the first person to post before and after photos of my facial feminization surgery on the World Wide Web. And the site really took off after that. She shitted. Groundbreaking. A real trendsetter, baby. Could she be somebody that you interview for the podcast, even though she is a white woman? Me and Andrea have a history that's kind of weird. So I don't know her. I don't have a problem. I've had a white woman on the show. We talked about what did we talk about? It was a Halloween episode. We talked about the trans history in Halloween horror. She was on the show, Sleepaway Camp. Yes, we talked about that. And I am going to have Trace Lissette on the show. We're in talks right now. She's going to be on the show. So there's certain white women that I'm cool with, but you have to you can't be racist. You can't have a racist history. Right now I'm talking about her iconic TS roadmap that was quite helpful when I was a teenager. And when I became an adult, things changed. Your friend from childhood who talked about her kids was also white, I think. Yes, she was. She was white. Yeah, I don't have a problem with white women, white people. They just have to be not racist. And they have to be have to have relevance to what I'm talking about. Yeah. Andrea and Calpurnia and them, they came up when the trans shit was popping off in the late aughts and the early 2010s, the late 00s. They were being real gatekeepery and racist to me. Real gatekeepery. And I didn't like that. They wasn't creating opportunities for Black girls. This site was originally started in 1998. Above the earliest extant capture is the earliest extant capture by archive.org. That's the earliest. So 1998, TS roadmap was last updated on November 21st, 1998. Finally, due to a large volume of mail, progress of the site has been slowly considerable. Please be patient. Andrea. Torch Transgender Outreach Research Clearinghouse. Google has not been founded by that time, and the finding information online was time consuming. I made a section called Torch that served as a one-stop shop for as much relevant consumer information as I gathered. I bought a top-level domain that year because AOL started forcing ads on members' pages. and I had no control over the ad content, some of which were scams or other disputable businesses. This site has moved, tsroadmap.com. This site was undergone many changes since 1998. The site domain was originally tsroadmap.com, as TS stood for transsexual, the term used at the time for people, including medical options in their transition. The name TS Roadmap was an artifact from AOL, which only allowed members to use 10-character names. After I moved to Los Angeles in 2003, the site became a major hub for fighting against academic exploitation of trans people. This is so dope, y'all. I just want y'all to understand that what she is talking about, walking and chewing at the same time, recognizing the innovation of her work and still being aware of her shortcomings and harm. Yes, Gigi. I'm white, but I'm always celebrated Black entertainment history and culture. I don't think you have to celebrate Black entertainment and culture. I just think that if you are a person who is white and you are not invested in white supremacy, you have an obligation to help with the dismantling the system of racism. That's what I feel is your moral job. And what that includes is doing what you can in your circle, in your power and your circle, to include Black people. That don't mean erase white people. That means to include, create the place that you want to see. If you only are creating place for your white family and your white friends and white people, and you're not trying to intentionally diversify your surroundings and your circle of people, then I think that's a problem. I think we all should be doing that, including myself, because, I know there's some amazing white people out there. Are they perfect? No, but I know there's some amazing ones. And so I feel my job is to be in community with them. So I have some white friends that are amazing. And we work together on doing so many things. I'm literally in my friend's book. They let me write a chapter in 2 of their books to amplify Black trans femme voices. He thinks that's a part of, I keep saying he, I'm sorry. They think that that's a part of their purpose. And I agree. And so we work together all the time. Been working together for years. As a matter of fact, let me But yes, let me add that book to. I have a bookshop account now. So I forgot to add that book to my bookshop account. I was raised Jehovah's Witness, which the good part of that our congregation was extremely diverse. It is. I remember going to the hall and it was tons of different type of people there. So it was definitely diverse. Way more diverse than when I was going to Kojic or Apostolic Church. It was a number of black folks. But the hall was definitely not our particular hall, but when we would have big gatherings to go to the hall, Kingdom Hall, the big one, that was a bunch of different type of people. People I had never races I had never met. That was the first time that I met South Asian people. Like Indian and yeah. That. Yes, the conventions. When we would go to the conventions, child, it was tons of people. Our particular hall, our hall had a little bit of, it was mostly black, but it had a little bit of diversity, just a little bit. But the conventions, baby, woo! Especially, so we had individual halls all around the city, but then we had one big hall in the like downtown part of the city. But then if you've been in the kingdom, you know that they had they had that convention, and then they had the big ones that you had to travel to. Baby, when you go to the ones that you had to travel to, Lord, everybody was there. Ooh, it was so fun. It was fun. I liked it. That's the best part about being in the Jehovah's Witness culture. Ooh, it was fun. The conventions were fun as hell. I love them. Anyway, let me go back to Tia's roadmap. I want to see what else they say. Okay. To celebrate the 20th anniversary, the site was moved to transgenderroadmap.com in 2018, and a major content upgrade took place in 2019 in order to serve mobile users better. Library of Congress, a great honor. In 2021, the United States Library of Congress selected this site for their archive as an important part of the collection of historical record added. The Library of Congress preserve important cultural artifacts and provide enduring access to them. The library traditional function acquiring, cataloging, preserving, and serving collection material of historical importance to foster education and scholarship. Extended to digital materials, including websites, our website archives are important because they contribute to the historical record, capturing information that could otherwise be lost. With the growing role of the web as an influential medium, record records of historic event could be considered incomplete without the materials that were born digital and never printed on paper. While I'm why is my tongue tied? While I am deeply honored for this recognition, I am more honored to have the opportunity to create something that might make this a journey a little easier for you. Dedication. This site is in honor of two pioneers in the trans online resources, Melanie Ann Phillips and Gwendolyn Ann Smith. They both informed and inspired my own tradition via the Transgender Community Forum and AOL. Although the forum is gone now, the work they begun there became some of the most important online resources for our community. I only hope I can come close to emulating these two amazing women in their resources. This is about to make me cry. Ooh, don't cry. Shit. Because I think this is really important. I usually think about this in the context of music. I know a lot of times, people's ego get in the way and want to say, I'm the first. I'm the first trans person to do this. I'm the first to do this. I'm the first, the first, the first. Everybody want to be the first. Baby, listen, where we are in our culture, somebody, if you a trans person, you was the first trans person doing something. We all was the first at some point. In somewhere, the first person to work at this job, the first person to go to this school, the first person to do that. We all was the first because we are now coming out of a subculture. And so while there are some big milestones, girl, we all been the first. So we all been the first at something. And it's okay to celebrate your accomplishment. I'm not saying not to celebrate you being the first, but it on an ego level, it ain't as cute as you think it is. I'm the first one to do this. I'm the first one to be the honey bun baker at Cinnabon. You get what I'm saying? I'm the first trans woman to have a, I don't know. Y'all know y'all done seen all these these little first things. The first trans woman to do this, to do that. Okay. So but what I love that people do is when they give you the glimpse of who inspired them, who inspired. Yes, you did this amazing work. You did this amazing work that you may not have known that intentionally was going to be what it is, and this beacon for trans people. You probably just was doing it for you, just to archive some stuff. But what this art, this passage right here says that there was women before me, Melanie Ann Phillips and Gwendolyn Ann Smith, who was doing what I'm doing in another path and somewhere else in the trans community on LOL. And so I just so happened to take it and put it on this website that stayed. And while AOL doesn't exist because they erased it, there's no kind of there's no, because they erased it, there's no history of these women that she named doing the work before Andrea comes into the picture. You feel what I'm saying? And when women who do something groundbreaking like this, I think it's appropriate for you to tell who inspired you. When we think about T.S. Madison and T.S. Eve, Eve was already dominating porn before Madison. She put Madison onto the game. And then look at where Madison is at now. And Madison always give T.S. Eve her props. That's her gay mom before she passed away. She was like, yo, she's the one who put me onto this. There's no way I would have became a millionaire prior to this, even this shit, if it wasn't for T.S. Eve. Eve was the one. And so I love when people, not just women, when people give you glimpse into who laid the foundation for your groundbreaking work. I love that. I really, really love that. When I think about even like people who was like on YouTube before there wasn't that many black girls that I knew. I think the black girls who was on here that I remember, T.S. Sexy Chanel. I remember her. Remember she used to paint her face. Do y'all remember T.S. Sexy Chanel? I remember Chanel. I remember what's the light skinned girl that used to use cream of nature on her hair? I don't want to say she weird, but she kind of weird. She seemed like a isolated trans person, but she do videos. Is it? I think her name is Anjanae. Is it Anjanae? She lives in New York. Is it? I think her name is S Child 05 or something. I don't know. She was on here, but she was kind of weird to me. But Who else was on here really in the early days in that 2008? Because YouTube started in 2006. The white girls that I knew who were on here, Grishno, she ended up moving to San Francisco, and getting SRS. Carmetic, Carmetic 111, Jess Robinson. She's my girl. She's just been my friend for years. Like she put me. YouTube used to have it where you could put um other people like on your channel to like boost them. And when she put me on her channel, baby, my views went so far up. I remember I would not be as popular as I was because of her at that time to become a partner. Um her name was Carmetic 111. I think it was 3 ones, I think. Who else was on here? That's the only ones I remember that was like doing numbers. Jalissa Jaconi, y'all remember her? Jalissa Jaconi, she was from the UK, but I think she was a sex worker, so she was doing a lot of sex worky stuff. Jalissa Jaconi. Yes, anyway. But I thought this is really dope for her to lay that foundation. So Gwendolyn Ann Smith, if you don't know, the women that she named, Gwendolyn Ann Smith is the reason why we have Transgender Day of Remembrance. Like Tidor, like the day we have in November, that has led to weeks we have in November. Gwendolyn Ann Smith is one of the people that's behind that because she created um she created Day of the Dead, and then it led to Remember Our Dead project, where she documented anti-trans murders and literally evolved into the Transgender Day of Remembrance that we know today. So yeah. Um the Vagina Monologues, that was all trans. She was a part of that. Yeah, I love this. Love, 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 love this. This is so dope. Love this. Hey. Oh, okay. Well, this one took me down memory lane. Jenna Steele was kind of problematic. That name sounds familiar, but I don't remember. Before smartphones and tablets. Transtasia movie gave something. There's so many things that you gotta mess. Sometimes you got to, but sometimes to make something right, you gotta make a couple of things wrong. Let me say this. and I'm gonna get up out of here once I kind of explain this. Once you gotta break shit. The creative process of an artist, especially in certain fields, okay, is a great analogy for cultural change. Like, you gotta break shit sometimes to make something better. You gotta deconstruct shit sometimes to build it up to be better. Without destruction, there is very little change that is happening. You gotta break it. You may not have to break it fully, but you gotta break it. There's sometimes you gotta fuck shit up. Sometimes you gotta um do something wrong, make the wrong movie in order to have a standard to make the right one. Like Beyonce doing country, not the best example. I don't know. Explain why that's an example at all. What do you mean? What is she breaking? But you gotta break something. You gotta dismantle something to build something right. Think and act out the box. Only issue with that is that black people started country music. So it's kind of hard to, I would feel as a country girl, as a country Texas girl, that's kind of like going back to what her box is. Like, it's kind of going back to the roots. Because another element of that conversation, even though this is kind of steering off what I wanted to end this on, but and I might talk about this Friday, but any Southern black person that I know fucks with country. Like, it's very few. It's very, because it's so a part of our culture. Like, people who grew up in the South, they fucks with some Reba McEntire. They fucks with some Winona Judds and Dolly Parton, and like, it's just a Shania Twain. I don't know. It feels weird people acting like black people, first of all, ain't the root of it, but even modern day black people listen to country music, especially if they live in the South. They live in the South. You coming across some country song that you like because it's gonna be on radio. I don't know anybody that don't. I just don't. Like how Brendan Fraser actually took a chance on a part and won an Oscar as a 600-pound gay man. I haven't watched that movie, but I heard it did good. People liked it. The answer to representation isn't the perfect representative, but many representations. Totally right, Gigi. Many. Because there's never going to be a perfect representation. Never. But the goal is to have many. Like you said, the goal is to have many, 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 many representations so that somebody is going to be represent you. Represent as many as you can. Yeah. Well, all right, y'all. It is 2:41. It is late, and y'all need to be asleep. I will chat with y'all later, and make sure you thumbs up if you're coming in late. And yeah. Thanks for listening.